Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday night live stream. Hope everybody's well. Hope you all had a fantastic weekend. And I hope you all having a good Monday so far as well. What have you all been up to this weekend? Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments here. Let me know what you've been playing this weekend. Let me know what have you been painting? Did you buy anything in the Black Friday sale or Cyber Monday as it is today? Have you managed to pick up any bargains? Let me know in the chat, and we'll get started with having a look and see who we've got in tonight. So Dirk was in nice and early. Good evening to you, Dirk. Lord Maiden, hello, Ian. Hope you're well, buddy. Mark Wright, nice to see you as well. Tolmont was in. Ortega, hello in the rerun, Ortega. Hope you're well, mate. Marcus, the Super Pumpkin Man, nice to see you as well. We got Blizzard in as well, saying, don't mind me, a box of stunny little buggers showed up with their pet mechanical pig and are asking for something called 11sies. Nice one, mate. Scott Latham, good evening to you, buddy. Jacob's in as well. Ald Cluley saying, hey everyone, I hope you're all well. Hello, mate. Christian, good evening to you, buddy. Derek Hodges in as well. Hello. Ice Moon, good evening to you. Christopher Hill, good evening as well. Of course, that's where my chat jams. John Estel. We've got, good evening, John. We've got Kodos in as well. Good evening to you. Hello, Anna. Long time no speak. Hope you're doing well. Ian says, the best thing about BlackJack Legacy is that every video has Andy in it. I was going to say something nasty there, but thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Ed, hello to you, buddy. How you doing? Hello, Frantic as well. Kenneth Paulson, good evening. Austin says, you're a cool dude, appreciate your vids. It's very kind of you to say. I wouldn't say my kids would say I was a cool dude, mate, but I appreciate it from you. Jez Hunt, good evening, sir. Luke Pryor as well. BJ Arenos, yes, that I won't be using that one again. John says, the worst thing about BlackJack Legacy is there isn't enough dancing. I tell you what, right, let me just double check something talking about dancing. I noticed my subscriber numbers today are at 13,989. So we might have a 14,000 subscriber dance. Who knows? We'll check in later in the stream. Palmsy, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well as well. Connor, good evening. Tiberius Wallace, nice to see you, my friend. He says, didn't buy anything at all in Black Friday. I did buy some stuff, but it was purely by chance. What was I doing on Friday? Was it Friday? Yeah, it was Friday. So it'd been my birthday on the Thursday. Friday, me and my missus had been out, did a bit of shopping and stuff like that. I went to pick my little boy up from school on the Friday night, and while I was sitting in the car, I got there early. I always get there early to try and get a parking space. So I was just sitting in the car looking on my phone, and my local gaming store, which is not that local to be fair, it's still a bit of a hike, but my local gaming store was selling loads of Marvel Crisis Protocol miniatures for half price. So it was just kind of having a bit of a clear out of stock. Kind of like had a load of stock of certain products. Had loads of 40k stuff, loads of AOS stuff, loads of what else did he have? Had a bit of Mantic stuff, I think. Some Warlord things. Had a load of stuff and basically just made a table full of stuff and said it was kind of first come first serve. You can't reserve it. You can't kind of pay and pick it up if you like. Just come and get it kind of thing. So I drove over, picked up a few Marvel bits and pieces, picked up my birthday present from my dad. Went to see him while I was over there because he doesn't live far away from where the shop is. So yeah, that was my Black Friday purchase. I don't think I bought anything else. My missus did a bit of a kind of like a usual like shopping thing, like spending way too much money because getting all these clothes in all these different colours and sizes to try on the ones she wants and send back the ones she doesn't, and then just wait for the credit card bill to get refunded. But yeah, I didn't buy anything other than those few bits. William Jones, good evening, mate. How are you doing? Ten Sketch says, hey, nice helmet. But seriously, I kidding. Got my parents to get me Crisis Protocol as a Christmas present. Will give me something to paint if I don't enjoy the game. I did see there was a few places had the core set at a good price, which is awesome. Players in Exile, so I bought that Legion Darth Vader starter set and the Kings of War Armada starter set for Christmas. Congrats, man. There's some nice choices there. Zingbo, good evening as well. He says you've got all pseudonyms. I know. I think about how it is for me. I'm trying to remember people who kind of come in regularly. So it's nice to to get to know the regular people. It's nice to get to know the new folks who come in as well, who I might not know quite so sort of well yet. Because they're equally as welcome. And then when the regulars start changing their names to something else, and I have to think, that's who that one is, and remember that one, and and I haven't got a good brain for names, to be fair. Jess says, how was your birthday night out with the missus fella? Do you know what, mate? We had an absolutely awesome day. It's been a long time since we've kind of had a bit of a boozy day like that. So the plan was we went out quite early. We dropped the little one at school. We went out for breakfast. And then we got the metro up to we went for breakfast, took the car home, got the metro up to town in Newcastle, and then kind of had a little wander around the shops and stuff like that, and until it was kind of like an acceptable time to go for a drink. And then we kind of had a bit of a boozy day, and the plan was to kind of get the metro back home about 9 o'clock. My wife's parents were babysitting for us. We'd get back home. They could get back home a decent time because we had to get up early again the next day with the little one. And we did manage to do all of that, but I must admit we had a put it this way, we were in a bar in Newcastle about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which felt like a Saturday night. It was absolutely rammed. The place was jumping. There was karaoke on, so people were getting up to sing. My wife's pretty good singer. I think I mentioned that a couple of weeks ago. So she got up and was singing a few karaoke. People were buying us drinks. We had an awesome night, mate. So yes, I was feeling a bit ropey. I was feeling a little bit worse away on the Friday morning, and then I went out with a couple of friends on Saturday night, and it ended up being a bit of a late one. It was almost 2 o'clock before I got in. So yes, it's been a fun-filled weekend. I did take a bit of kind of time off for kind of like over the weekend. I wasn't really on social media. I wasn't on any of the Discord groups or Facebook groups or anything like that. I just kind of had a bit of a chilled weekend, spent some time with friends and family and stuff. So yeah, it was an awesome weekend. Thanks for asking. Ian says, I'm okay, thanks. I just have age-related depression. How are you? I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. All I would say is the older you get, the better it gets, because the older you get, the less you care about what anybody else thinks. You just kind of enjoy yourself for yourself. Ed saying he had a game of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay on Sunday. Other than that, he's been painting his Hunter Clade's kill team. A nice one. Dirk says paid postage for a Kickstarter from Crooked Drakes and bought a jigsaw. Nice one, mate. Or is it a jigsaw puzzle? Who knows? Tony says hello as well. Nice to see you, mate. I knew you were going to be a little bit late, but thank you very much for coming in. Luke says get the thumbs up in early, gents. Thank you very much. This is going to be a scream. I wonder what we're talking about there. Peter says, evening all. No Black Friday for me. Couldn't make up my mind. I didn't really see a lot, I think. I think generally the sales started so early recently that basically I think it just felt like I didn't see anything like kind of like massively like sort of tempt me. Like, for example, like Mantic had a 15% off certain sort of products on their website. They didn't have their normal kind of like crazy Bobby sale. They had like 15% off certain products on the website, and I was thinking, well, they're 20% off all the time at like Goblin Games and everywhere else and stuff. So there's nothing kind of like tempting me at that point. Tony said he bought Marvel Crisis Protocol during the Black Friday deals. Reasonable price. Yeah, it was a good price, mate. I noticed that. Cider Monday. I'm all right with a bit of Cider Monday. Yeah. VJ saying he went up pretty hard on Black Friday and Cyber Monday stuff, but it was all work-related, software and hardware. Nice to see you, VJ. Good morning, mate. Al says, I consider looking for Deadzone for Black Friday, but I just don't think I'll find players to get games in, so I'm keeping my readies in the vault. Yeah, that's always it, mate. Yeah, you know what I mean? If it's not something that you want to buy just to paint, for example, if you're literally buying it to only play games, then maybe it's not. You know, if you can't get local players or whatever, you don't necessarily want to travel or anything like that. Luke saying he bought the 2 Star Wars Legion Clone Wars starter sets and Anakin Skywalker. Yeah, they were a good value as well, weren't they? On there, I think I saw them on Amazon. Spider-Lord saying half price MCP. Totally not jealous. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't everything. He basically kind of had like, there was about 10 or 12 different Marvel box sets, like character packs, that it basically just said half recommended retail price. So I went and kind of picked up the ones that I didn't have. Jess says, talking to gaming shops, did you see Northumbrian Tin Soldiers opened a game shop near you? I did see, mate. They've been open for a little while now. They've been gradually kind of getting it ready, I think, and they're talking about their grand opening now. But it has been open for a little while. It's literally almost on my doorstep, mate. I couldn't walk there as such. Well, I could, but it'd be a bit of a hike. But it's literally 2 minutes away from where I used to live, though. If it had been open when I lived in my last house, I might have been there more often. Yoakum, hello mate, he's just starting his 3D printer up. Blizzard's saying, only thing I bought for Black Friday was some WoW Exodus stuff. Nice choice. Busey says, any Cyber Monday discounts on BlackJack merch? Do you know what it is, mate? I must admit, it didn't even occur to me to do anything. Let me set a sale up. I'll set up an end of year sale or something, because I didn't do it for kind of Black Friday and stuff. So we'll set something up. We'll try and get something sorted. Camo, hello to you as well. Says, sorry I was distracted making coffee and watching Malifaux vids. How very dare you? Jesse, and quiet afternoon in the tune. Honestly, mate, we went for lunch at what's it called again? Revolution de Cuba, and we were literally the only. This was about 10 to 3, because it was 2 for 1 cocktails at 3 o'clock, and we were literally the only people in there. And we were thinking, we didn't mind. We weren't going for kind of to spend time with other people. We were going to spend some time together. It's not very often we get to have a bit of a day like that. And I was thinking, it's going to be a bit quiet, but yeah, we found the busy spot, that was for sure. Spiderlord says, I remember them 2 a.m. was standard. Those days are long gone. They're long gone for me as well, mate. Yeah. James Arm, hello mate. He says, a nice low-key weekend's always solid. I enjoyed my holiday weekend by relaxing and a lot of hobbying. Nice one, mate. Spylord's on a mission to complete his Necron monolith and the Silent King by Christmas. Nice one, mate. Make sure you do. James Hannah, good evening as well. Says, didn't buy anything Black Friday, but we'll pre-order Dungeon Ball on payday. Yeah, that went up for pre-order, didn't it, this weekend just gone? Tiberius was after Philips Hue light bulbs, but the deals around weren't much better. I think, do you know what it is? I think that's kind of how it is at the minute. Is that basically the kind of, a lot of these shops basically kind of have had a bit of a tough time through lockdowns and stuff like that, and they know people are kind of willing to spend anyway. So I don't think the deals are anything fantastic, really. I think there's probably been better deals recently beforehand. Tabletop Ramble, good evening. Jess says, I'll have to pop over and see them when I get back up north in a couple of weeks. Yeah, you will do, mate. Deep Red, hail and well met to you as well, matey. I did have a great birthday, thank you. And Tony says, talking of Northumbrian Tin Soldier, my local gaming store will be stocking them soon, and started stocking Moonstone. I feel like the luckiest boy in Hornsey. Awesome, buddy. Nice one. So we've got a nice little gang in tonight. Welcome to everybody. If there is anybody that's new here tonight, please do say hello in the chat. We've got sort of some decent numbers in, all 85 of you in the chat there tonight. Please let me know if you're new here. It's always good to meet some of the new folks. I know my kind of subscriber numbers have took a little bit of a boost recently after I did the interview with Warren from Beasts of War on Tabletop. Folks seem to enjoy that as well. I've got another interview lined up really soon. Somebody's actually travelling to come here and see me, and they've asked me kind of, can I come and do an interview, which I'm quite excited about. And I think it's another one of those kind of interviews where folks will be interested to hear what they've got to say. A bit of a, I wouldn't say a celebrity so much, but a bit of a kind of certainly a character within gaming circles. So David Warren, good evening to you, mate. He says he got invited to buy an Xbox Series X, and that burned up all my tabletop funds I've been saving. Yeah, I was on an alert list to get a PlayStation 5, but it wasn't for me. It was for my father-in-law, actually, who's like in his 70s. He's a massive gamer, got consoles all over the place, always played the latest stuff. Hasn't been able to get a PlayStation 5 because you know what it's like. And my oldest son set me up in a Discord group, which basically sends me an alert when anything goes into stock, and I managed to get him a PlayStation 5. So that was me searching for PlayStation 5. ER910, good evening, says will prime some Die Hard miniatures received from the latest Kickstarter. Nice one, fella. Lord Maiden says 85 people and 33 likes. Does Andy not butter your bagels? What a lovely turn of phrase, mate. I like that one. Samir Patel, good evening to you, sir. Says interview with Warren was a fun to listen to. Thank you very much. Wolf Lancer 4, good evening as well. Says currently cleaning up a couple of Battletech minis. Hope to get them primed before the sun goes down. I tell you what, mind, I've had a bit of stuff to prime myself recently, some bits of terrain and things, and the weather has been awful. I've been using rattle cans to get the big bits of terrain and stuff done, and I've really struggled to get stuff primed. It's been awful here. I might try and show you a picture later on. I don't know if I'll be able to get it on my phone and kind of put it on the screen or something like that. But it was a house like kind of just 2 doors away from me, basically almost the end of their house fell down with the high winds at the weekend. It was a disaster. So yeah, you can imagine what the weather's been like. Snow, so it's too cold to prime outside, and it's absolutely blustery, sort of really high winds. So yes, not good. Just seeing more special guests. Yeah, this time they contacted me, which I thought was quite cool. Tony saying, I've enjoyed the interviews. They've been solid content. Thank you very much. David Warren says that's some good son-in-law points right there. I know, that's it. I must admit, I do have my uses as a son-in-law. Take it, you can have that. Thank you very much, mate. Tom Martin, the interview's been excellent. Thank you very much. Deep Red saying, have you got any more in the pipeline? Yes, I've definitely got one. I've definitely got one kind of already set up to be done. And the other one, the interviews I've done, in no disrespect to the people that I've done the interviews with, but they've been a mixed bag when it comes to kind of like sort of viewing figures. If you think about like sort of like the one I've done with Warren's done like 14,500 views in just over a week. I mean, it's kind of dwarfed the other ones. I think some of it was shall I say, an enticing title, an enticing thumbnail. People want to know why did they turn down GW? I think some people might see that as a bit of clickbait. It obviously isn't if you watch the video. That's definitely what he talks about. But it is kind of a little bit enticing and pulling in. And it's a shame that's how YouTube works, but you do have to get people to kind of click a video, unfortunately. And it worked really well with that one. So so I'm kind of looking to see who are the people that I think people want to listen to. Who do people want to hear from? Whose stories do they want? Where are we up to here? Jez Hunt says, a bit snowy up there. It's not bad, mate, to be honest. It's not bad at all. It's we had a bit of snow. It was really, really frosty, really icy. I nearly fell over going into the garage here today. But yeah, it's not been too bad. It's pretty much melted already. Scott Latham as well. Hello, mate. He says the mast on the Endeavour snapped in the harbour in the winds. Gary Morley, good evening to you, mate. And Blood Bowl 3rd edition. Nice to see you. Dirk says we had the snow here this morning too. Yeah. Sundered Psych. Hello to you as well, mate. Nice to wake up to Andy's soothing voice. Good morning, fans. Busey saying the weather managed to cancel I'm a Celebrity for 3 days. My God, that's it there. That's it. The end of the world, eh? David Warren says the title piqued my interest for sure, and I had wondered what Warren was up to. I'd love to see an interview with Carlos for Corvus Belly. Yeah, he's somebody that I've spoken to in the past and wouldn't mind sort of doing something with. Wolf Lancer, hello to you as well. Says living in the south of the US, I know all about the weather not cooperating when it comes to wanting to get stuff primed. Yeah, I mean, I generally kind of use an airbrush for most of the stuff, but it's just with the bigger terrain pieces and things, it's for speed really. It doesn't need to be sort of like super fine, and an airbrush takes a while when you're doing kind of big areas, that's all. James is saying, yeah, they got pounded with the snow as well. His back's feeling it up from the shoveling. Samir says, we'd love to see an interview with Sonic Sledgehammer, please. Interesting. We are kind of sort of like, we have the odd chat on there on Twitter and stuff together, so yeah, may do. Nice one. So I think what we might as well do, folks, since we've got a nice little kind of gang in, we might as well start with tonight's main chat. And as I said before as well, kind of sort of, I don't actually think I did mention about it. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll go to here. There we go. And we'll kind of crack on. So yeah, what I thought we'd talk about tonight is my top 5 miniatures games of 2021, and I'll start, before we go into the kind of the 5 games, I'll start with a bit of clarification about what I'm talking about. These are not games that just launched in 2021 and are sort of 2021's best games. These are games that kind of come out at any particular time. You know, it doesn't matter how old the game is. It can have come out last week. It can have come out in 1970. It doesn't really matter. But in order to qualify for this 2021 list, I must have played them in 2021. I must have kind of sort of at least sort of played with the miniatures kind of thing. I've looked at the quality of the minis. I've been painting them. I've taken a genuine kind of interest in the game. So that's kind of how I'll qualify it. I kind of went through a list because I always kind of keep a list of the different games and stuff I've played, and I think off the top of my head I've played about 20 different games in 2021, which is quite a lot. Some of them I might have only played one game of, just to have a try of it. Some games I've played lots more. And there's lots of games that won't make the list because I might have talked about them, but I've not had a chance to play them as yet. And I'll talk about some maybe like honourable mentions and stuff later on. But so that's how I qualify it. And I'll kind of stress at the start, it's my list, it's my personal taste, it's the stuff that I've been interested in this year, it's the stuff that I've kind of had fun with, and it might not be to your taste. You might say, oh, why is there no such and such on this list? Why is it all this type of game? Or why is that on the list? It's terrible kind of thing. It's my list, it's my games, it's my interest, that's all. It's there really as a bit of a talking point, like I don't necessarily think you'll agree with everything. I'm sure people will have their own sort of ideas, but that's the kind of like the background. If you are kind of chatting and stuff in the chat, what we'll do is we'll go through them sort of one game at a time. I'll talk about that game. I'll come back to the chat. If you've got anything specific you want to talk about, just kind of at BlackJack Legacy, all one word, in the chat, in the comments, and then that'll highlight it for me, and it's much easier for me to come back and see that. So without further ado, I'm just very quickly just checking, is there anything I've missed? I think we're all good. We'll start with the first game. And this, I would say, is I've kind of ranked them 5 to 1. Some of these could kind of easily switch around a place or two. But this is where I think. And the game I've put at number 5 is Moonstone. This is a game by Goblin King Games. Now, Moonstone's a game I'd seen a little bit in the past. It was one of those games that I always there's a subsection of games that I always kind of put into a bit of a group. It's things like Burrows and Badgers, it's things like Moonstone, it's things like kind of 5 Parsecs from Home, and it's all these kind of games where I'm unlikely to kind of find a local group of people playing these games on a regular basis. So if it's something I'm going to kind of sort of spend any time or money on, it's got to kind of interest me. It's got to have something a little bit special, because it'll be the game I'm trying to convince somebody else to play with me. It's not like a Warhammer 40,000 where I can go to the local store and just go and sort of pick up a game and just play it. It's something I can maybe convince my wife to have a game, so it's got to be something that's not too complex. It's got to be something that doesn't play for too long, and it's got to have some nice minis that I want to be interested in painting. And Moonstone is one of them games. However, this year, the folks at Goblin King Games actually did get in touch with me and said, we've got a Kickstarter coming up. We'd like to send you out a Moonstone box, the 2-player starter set, just for you to have a look at it and see what you think. No kind of pressure to kind of do anything with it. There's no payment involved, any of that kind of stuff. But if you like it, then by all means, kind of tell people. And so that was the first time I'd ever actually got my hands on a Moonstone, on any Moonstone miniatures, or even really looked at the rules in any kind of depth. And what I found was the rules are really, really simple to do. I mean, I just got it here because I wanted to show you that the rule book is it's super thin. How many pages in the whole book? Are they even numbered? There's about 20 pages. Yeah. 19 pages up to the back, including kind of reference stuff. There's like 19 pages in the rules. There's not a lot in there, and there's lots of examples in that. The rules are free online. It plays with card packs as well as an arcane deck, which is kind of how you sort of... It's kind of like a bluffing game kind of thing. You're almost you've got these like numbered and coloured cards, and you're almost trying to sort of bluff to your opponent what card you're playing. And because there's a set number of cards and a set amount, like for example, if you see I've got like a red 3 here, or a blue 3, shall we say, let's say a blue 3, I've got a blue 3, you might say, well, there's only one of them in a deck or something, and I've got that, so I know he definitely doesn't have it, kind of thing. So there's this kind of this interactive bluffing game thing which goes on, which I found was really interesting. You've also got the combat deck as well, which is how you do sword fights, and it's almost a little bit like rock paper scissors type thing with cards. You don't roll any dice. Well, I rephrase that. You do roll D4s, but you roll them onto the table. And you roll them on the table. Whatever number comes up is where the Moonstone lands, and that is how deep the Moonstone is in the ground. So it has some really, really unique mechanics. It plays on a 3x3 table. You can play 2 to 4 players, so it is great for if there's a kind of like a number of yous playing. It's not something I would consider playing competitively, but it's got a nice little kind of story to it. The characters are very kind of sort of whimsical, sort of fantasy-esque, if you like things like Labyrinth, that sort of stuff. It's got a real sort of nice flavour to it. The miniatures are really nice quality, they're all resin as well, and I just think it's a really interesting game. It seems to be getting a little bit of attention at the minute. It seems like they did really well at Salute. Everybody I kind of speak to who went to Salute seemed to pick up some Moonstone stuff. I think they're busy delivering the Kickstarter that they were talking to me about back then as well, and I just think it's something that if you're looking for something a little bit different, if you're looking for something that plays relatively quick, something that's pretty simple. The rules are all free online. The cards are all available to kind of download and print off online as well. The stat cards and the cards that you play the game with. You could literally print it all out on a bit of paper, stick them in card sleeves, and just play for free, just to kind of try the game out and see what you think. But yeah, I think it's one of those games that I've played it a few times now. I played it a couple of times just to get my head around the rules, because I did like a live stream about Moonstone, and I've played it a few times since then as well. I haven't had a chance to paint the miniatures yet, but I've played it with a friend, just kind of sort of pushing a few minis around, explaining how simple it was and how fun it was, and showing them some minis and stuff. So yeah, that's my number 5. Probably a bit of a surprise one, I think, for folks, because it's not something I've really talked about an awful lot. It's just something I've kind of played in like sort of like on my own sort of spare time type thing. But yeah, that's number 5. Let's have a little look in the chat and see what the chat says about that. Let's have a little look here. Palmsy saying it feels very festive. Does it really, mate? Babalush, hello to you as well. So we're saying best games 2021, Armada and its new factions, the Caesar Flame book. For me, interesting, mate. Yeah. James Potter saying, speaking of name changes, this is the Tasty Brain Drain. There you go, mate. Nice to see you in. Jez says, I've been tempted by Moonstone. I like the feel of it. Odd whimsy. Whimsy is a perfect word for Moonstone, mate. It's one of those games that just like it's got like a sort of a really sort of strange fantasy vibe to it that's not like kind of high fantasy type thing. I don't think I really understand the difference between high fantasy and low fantasy and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure there's a definition of it, but I think of like kind of sort of like almost serious fantasy and then kind of fun fantasy and things like kind of what's it called again? The name's gone. Really, Discworld stuff, like that kind of stuff. The Discworld stuff, the sort of Labyrinth movie, that type of fantasy. This is where I see Moonstone fitting in as well. Everyone giving Gary Morley a bit of love. Nice to see you in, buddy. Thank you very much for calling in and saying hello. Just saying, yeah, totally my aesthetic. Andy Smith, hello to mate. Nice to see you. How you doing? Alan Stewart as well. Nice to see you. She's late to the show, and I'm sure I'm not the first to mention it. Zatu Games' Marvel Crisis Protocol for 54 quid for Cyber Monday. Thanks to you, Andy. I'm 54 quid light. 54 quid is a bargain. I bought mine from Zatu Games when I got it, and I think I paid 67 for it, and that was cheap at the time. Because of its popularity, it seems to have gone back up in price a little bit. It's been like in the 70 odd pound mark, but yeah, 54 is a bargain, mate. Andy's been priming a bit of bolt action stuff. Tabletop Ramble says Moonstone wasn't on my radar. Sounds really interesting. Think I'll check it out. If you go back through my old stuff, mate, or if you even just search kind of Moonstone, if you search Moonstone BlackJack Legacy, you'll see the live stream that I did about it, and I kind of explain the basics of the game. I show some of the different factions that's available, kind of how the card mechanics work, how the game works without dice. It's played on a 3x3 table. You don't need a mountain of terrain. It's just a really fun little game, actually. Let's have a little look here. Andy Smith saying played Sigmar in GW in Chesterfield last week. Liked it. Nice one, fella. He said pre-order Lord of the Rings board game too. Tybee says I fancied some Moonstone stuff. Quality of the Moonstone stuff I was really surprised with, mate. I think I'd seen them online, wasn't that sure about them, to be fair. But seeing them in the flesh, actually getting my hands on them, building them, sort of priming them up. A couple of them I've started painting as well. They're really nice sculpts. John says I'm feeling all warm and fuzzy now, waxing nostalgic. Nice one. Marco, good evening, mate. This is bought in the Moonstone at Salute. I approve. A lot of people seem to have kind of Salute seems to, I don't know if it was just a bit of a boost at Salute or what, or if they had some good deals on, but I feel like of all the games I heard about at Salute, Moonstone was the one that seemed to do kind of well out of it, so I'm really, really glad it did. Christian sharing the link for the Patreon there as well. Thank you very much. First, folks, I was just going to say, saying don't sign up till the first though. If you do want to support me on Patreon, this is my full-time job. This is what I do now, and it's thanks to people like you in the community that I can talk about stuff that's maybe a bit less kind of, it's not the most popular stuff. We get to talk about all different aspects of tabletop, like things like the interviews. They're the kind of things that never drive big views, but people are interested in kind of seeing them and things. If you do want to support me through Patreon, it's massively appreciated. $2 a month gets you kind of into the Patreon list and gets you into the Patreon Discord. But do not do it today, because it will charge you today, and then on the first of the month it'll charge you again. So keep it safe in your wallet. And is it Wednesday? I think is the first. Do it on Wednesday. There you are. Save yourself a couple of quid. Jason saying he backed the Kickstarter for Moonstone. The unique rules won me over. Yeah, and like I say, the rules are free online. If you go to GoblinKingGames.com, I think it is. You can download the rules and have a look at them and see what you think. The rule book's kind of, this is the one you get inside the 2-player starter set. It's just paper kind of thing, like just nice quality paper, and it's colour as well. But it's like, there is a nicer book as well. But this is all you need to get started. Alan Stewart saying Moonstone, great fun, great range of minis, something very different from my usual fare of AOS and Warcry. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's just a bit different. It's nice, mate. Jesse saying must resist Moonstone. Well, at least until he gets back home and paint and play some stuff he's already bought. Nice one. Fairy tale fantasy, mate. That's a good way to put it. I like that. Thank you very much. Scott Latham saying Doug the Flatulent, looking forward to converting him to a French bulldog like mine. Nice one. Dirk saying how many miniatures per side for Moonstone? It's not a lot, mate. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head now, but it's about five or six. You can obviously play bigger games and stuff, but 5 or 6 minis does you as well. Eon910 saying he loves the Moonstone goblins. Tony says we have regular Moonstone events at work, and Tony Bouvleiden, I should say, hello mate, and the more I see it played, the more I want to play it. I've heard loads of good stuff. Gary says gotta go soon now, but if you fancy a chat, thank you very much, I might well be in touch. Lots of stories, I like stories, mate. Yeah, thank you very much. I'll be in touch. Lord Maiden says it's 12 models on the table max. That's what it is. 4 per side in the starter set. Thank you very much, folks. Lord Maiden saying 6 per side for 2 players. That's what it is. 12 on the table max. I couldn't remember it. 12 on the table. So it's, if you're playing with 2 players, it's 6 per person. If you're playing with 4 players, it's 3 per person. So you basically just divide the models up. So yeah, perfect. Lee Reynolds, hello mate. He's saying he's tempted with Moonstone. Yeah, nice one. So that is my number 5. So if we go back now, get the right slides up. Here we go. Is it still? Yes, it's still up there. So that's number 5, Moonstone, Goblin King Games. Let me just start. My TV's decided it wants to do an update now, and it's. Do I accept that it's doing an update? Yes, I do. Right, number 4. Number 4 is, or it will be if I can get it to move, is Overdrive by Mantic Games. Now, this one might be a bit of a surprise as well to folks. I played this kind of when Rob came to visit. and we played Overdrive, and I did like a how to play video, and we talked about it, the background of it and stuff. And I've got this game, and I've painted up all of the contents for it, all the stuff that's in the starter set, and I've played quite a few games of this, like on the quiet at home with my family. I've played it with a friend as well, and for me it is one of the best kind of hex based sort of battle arena type things, and I'll give you a couple of reasons why. One is it kind of flies under the radar a bit, so there isn't any kind of experts out there. It's not like everybody's kind of got these sort of amazing kind of tactics that they've all worked out and stuff. The miniatures are really nice. It's nice that there's some kind of like sci-fi flavour to it. Majority of this kind of stuff tends to be fantasy-based things. Things like AOS, things like God tier. When I say AOS, I mean like sort of like Underworlds. Things like God tier. They tend generally to be a bit more fantasy-based, not very sci-fi. It's obviously played on a small board size, so it's perfect for like kind of like coffee table, dining table type stuff. And it's super simple rules. You know, like for example, it's if you're familiar with Dreadball, you know where your stat lines are fixed. It's the number of dice that changes. So if something's going to be more difficult, you'll have less dice to roll, kind of thing. You always start with that 3 dice pool, and it's just got lots of depth to it. There's a load of tactics. The fact that the game comes with kind of 6 different sort of play modes, if you like, sort of different scenario type things. I just find the game a lot of fun. I don't feel the need to kind of to chase things from a model buy-in perspective, because there's not that much out for it yet. But it's just a lot of fun. I had signed up to go down to Mantic for their sort of Deadzone boot camp weekend. I was really looking forward to it, and it turned out that was the weekend when I was going into hospital. I had to go and have a COVID test to make sure I didn't have COVID when I went into hospital, and then I had to isolate, and I had to go for the COVID test on the Saturday morning, so I ended up having to cancel my ticket for that, and it was a shame because I was looking forward to that. But yeah, I've played quite a few games of this now. I've painted up all my core set. It's not a game I feel the need to kind of sort of like to go hard on collecting stuff, but it's a game I've really enjoyed playing, and I think it's a bit quiet in the community. Folks are not really talking about it. I think it came out at a time for Mantic where straight on the back of this, they shifted their focus a little bit to things like the Halfling armies came out for Kings of War. Deadzone 3 was kind of right behind it as well. The Firefight playtest was kind of hovering around as well. And I think, Mantic can only focus on so many things at a time. And I think it's kind of flew under the radar a little bit. So yeah, this is my number 4. It's a game I've really enjoyed playing, and like I say, not every game's got to be a brain burner. Not every game's got to sort of have like loads of armies and different things to collect. I've just really enjoyed it. So yes, let's have a looky in the chat here, and we'll see what folks are saying here. Tony saying he might have bought 1 or 2 Moonstone minis over the weekend. A nice one. Gary saying, yeah, thanks, you love your enthusiasm, be happy to chat. Thank you very much, mate. Spylord says, reckon an interview with Gary could be a winner. I did one with Andy Chambers a while ago and got a lot of traffic. Nice one. Yeah, I think it's kind of how you frame it. Honestly, you can talk to the most interesting person in the world, but unless you kind of sort of tease people in with something to click on them videos with, they just get overlooked, unfortunately. Kirsten, hello, nice to see you. Says, woo, I love Overdrive. It's a great game. It's a game that just, it needs folks to try out. It's the kind of game which is perfect at like a convention for demos. Everything just boxes up bang into the box. You haven't got to worry about sort of painting loads of models. One person can buy it and paint up the core set, and then you just draft the 6 players that are in there. It's just a nice little kind of self-contained game, and as more stuff comes out, I'll probably buy bits and pieces over time. But again, it's not like a Deadzone where I feel I need to kind of like sort of flesh out an army and list build and do some bits and pieces. It's got that drafting mechanic where you basically, or you can have a draft mechanic, I should say, or it's just got that mechanic where I pick my 3 players and that's it, kind of thing. Samir saying, I've got to leave and pick up the kids from school. We'll tune the recording later to see the next few favourites. Thank you very much. He's saying he hopes that Lord of the Rings, SBG, Rangers of Shadow Deep and Battletech make the cut. Happy hobby. And thank you very much, Samir. Spiderlord saying, people are super interested to hear about those days before they went super corporate. They are, but then it also leads to a certain age demographic who want to kind of hear about the good old days, and then it sometimes feeds into that, like, the anti-GW feel, and I don't want to do that either. So you've just got to balance them a little bit sometimes. Spiderlord says, I'm blaming that supercharged line in Overdrive for my overuse of super there. Nice one. Vijay says, Robin and Pete from Agents of Sigma are playing some Overdrive on their channel if anyone would like to see some fun Overdrive bat reps. I've not seen any yet, mate, actually. Are they doing some? I'm not seeing any. Mark was saying, how does it compare to Super Fantasy Brawl? I like Super Fantasy Brawl, mate, but I always feel like Super Fantasy Brawl has an element of sort of a bit of a brain burner, a bit of a, not analysis paralysis, because there's only certain things you can do. I feel with Super Fantasy Brawl, you are forced into playing a certain way because you can only play the way the cards allow you to play. So for those that don't know, Super Fantasy Brawl, each kind of hero, each champion comes with a set of cards that allows them to do certain actions, and then you basically draw those cards each turn. And you can play those cards on your turn, so you can have an idea of what you want to do, but you can't necessarily do it. Depends. It's almost like, I know what I want to do, now I have to read the cards and decide if I can do it, and I think that can be limiting at times. Where I feel Overdrive takes away those limitations, but because it's relatively simple in its turn structure and its rules, you don't get that analysis paralysis type thing. It's that same kind of puzzle dynamic to try and work it out. But I feel like Super Fantasy Brawl is a bit of a head scratcher. Like I feel like you end up trying to study the board and looking at your cards and thinking, how can I make these work, kind of thing. Like that's the difference, I would say. Kirsten says, I took Overdrive to a board game evening with a group of friends, and we took one character each for Pass the Bomb. Lots of tactical discussions and everyone loved it. Yeah, it's fun. BG says, Overdrive's on my when I get to it list. So many things in the backlog right now. Arena Battle are pretty low on the list. Yeah, and I mean there is a lot of different arena battle games out there, and that's why I'm saying, of all the different ones that I've played, I think this is the one that for me is just it's one way you can just pick it up and play kind of with what's in the box. You don't, with God Tier, I think it plays great with those starter sets, but then you do need to expand and buy more stuff and get up to 3 champions each, because that's where the game starts to kind of like sort of come alive a little bit. I think it's Aristia, I think is a good game, but it's a bit overly complex. I've talked about this before, but there's a point in Aristia where you roll the dice, and because it's all different symbols on the dice as opposed to numbers, you're basically trying to work out what symbols have come up and which symbols you need on your cards to get certain actions off and stuff. And it works well, and I'm sure over multiple players it gets easier. But when you first learn that game, it's almost this. There's a point where basically you roll a dice, then you go, hang on, let's see what came up on the dice. What do I need? And there's this little bit of moment of kind of going backwards and forwards, as opposed to kind of, right, I'm looking for sort of like 3+. I roll a dice, yeah, that succeeded, I can move on, kind of thing. I think so. Yeah, that's God Tier. That's Super Fantasy Brawl I've talked about. That's Aristia I've talked about. Warhammer Underworlds, I'm not a fan of the card mechanic. I'm not a deck building kind of card gaming kind of person, really. I know other people are. If you're into Magic and all that kind of stuff, you might prefer something like Underworlds. I think Overdrive just kind of takes all the best bits of the other ones with a really simple rule set, very few models to worry about. It just works really, really well. Oh yes, Regis, yeah, they're currently editing them on Patreon. Oh, fair enough, mate. I was going to say I've not seen any yet. Cool. So that one, folks, is number 4, wasn't it? Yeah, Overdrive number 4. Tyler Peck, hello, mate. He says, have missed live shows recently due to basketball practice. Nice to see you back, mate. So, let me get my screen back up again. Then we'll go back to what's on the list at number 3. And he presses the right button. Technology, don't you just love it when it works? So that was number 4. Number 3 on the list is Malifaux. Malifaux by Weird Games. Now, Malifaux, I've talked quite a bit about Malifaux. I know most people will kind of know I've got a bit of a love for this game. And I played lots of it in first edition, didn't play a second edition. I wasn't overly keen on the rules changes. But when third edition came around, I thought, it's a game I kind of want to give it. I want to have another look at. I want to see what it's like. And I really like the third edition rules. I've always been a big fan of the minis. I absolutely love the lore and the background. And I get a lot of enjoyment from this game, just sitting painting the miniatures, sitting listening to the Breachside broadcast kind of podcast type things, the audio stories. I love reading the rule books with all the different kind of background stories in. It's probably one of my favourite, if not my favourite, kind of miniatures universe. And if I could only read the background for one game, for example, it would be this one. It would be Malifaux. I absolutely love the setting. I love the fact that it's a card-based mechanic, that it's not based on rolling dice. For those that are not familiar, you basically you have a hand of a deck of cards, like a normal sort of 54 card deck with the 2 jokers in, which are they are rebranded for Malifaux, but that's essentially what they are. And as you basically flip cards to see how much damage you do, you don't roll a dice to see if you hit, you flip a card to see if you hit. And you also have a hand which you basically which you can then cheat in. So for example, if you flip over a 3 and you need a 10 or more, if you've got a 10 in your hand, you can play it from your hand. And the beauty of that is not only do you get the chance to kind of cheat fate, it's like kind of having like a handful of like 6s, if you like, but there's a memory to the deck as well. So you know if the red jokers come out, you know that the red joker's not going to come back anymore. So if you're looking for a miracle kind of thing, you know the miracle's already gone. It's not like that when you're rolling dice. The odds of rolling a 6 basically resets every time you roll. The odds of you flipping a red joker are increasing the longer you go down the deck, and then basically disappear once it's kind of out. So it's really, really unique. I love the fact you don't need a lot of miniatures to play the game. Once you start to get into it, and if you want to play it competitively, you will want to expand your collection. So it's not a case of like sort of 5 minis and you're done kind of thing. But I do personally find it's not it's not expensive to get started with. It's played on a 3x3 table, so again, it's a nice size for kind of dining table type thing, sort of kitchen table games. And the miniatures are really, really nice quality. I love the weird miniature plastics. Weird sort of miniatures are up there with the best on the market for me personally. There's a lot to love about Malifaux. The game itself, I've played probably this year. I've probably only played about 4 games of Malifaux, if I'm perfectly honest. But I've played enough to know that I really like the third edition rules. We've got Malifaux Burns has come out now as well, which is an expansion, which is kind of completely optional. If you're new to the game, you don't have to worry about it. But it basically just introduces more sort of different masters to play. So each master now has an alternative version, which basically doubles the amount of masters in the game. Masters are your leader models for your factions and stuff. And Malifaux is a game that I kind of continue with next year as well. So the reason I've placed it ahead of Overdrive and ahead of I was going to say Goblin King, ahead of Moonstone by Goblin King Games, is the fact that I'm more invested in the universe. I'm more invested in the quality of the miniatures, and I've painted loads of Malifaux this year. I've loved painting the minis, and the game is a lot of fun as well. I do appreciate it's not necessarily as accessible to play as something like Moonstone or Overdrive. The rules are a little bit more in depth. They're not difficult, but they are more in depth, and it's a game that you will definitely get more out of the more you play it. But yeah, I absolutely love Malifaux. So yeah, this is number 3. This is bronze medal, if you like. This is the bronze award on my games of 2021. So let's see what the chat think about that. I'm sure there's some Malifaux fans in the chat tonight. I wonder if they've flagged it up. Let's have a little look here. Brian Sheen, hello mate. He says, always great to see games I I may not be familiar with. Nice one, mate. Tyler saying the artwork on Rulebook is beautiful and amazing. I love the artwork, mate. Tim Albers, good evening, mate. He says, greetings from Sundancer. What was number 5? He missed that one. Yeah, it was Moonstone, mate. Thank you very much, Ian, as well. Tell him. Alan Stewart says, yet another hit to my bank account, courtesy of your channel. Picked up the Malifaux rulebook to check it out and have yet to buy a couple of faction boxes. To be honest, the rulebook is absolutely beautiful. Like, it gives you a real flavour of what you're kind of getting yourself into. And if you love the art in the rulebook and stuff, and you love the flavour text, like you'll not be sorry kind of picking up the miniatures and stuff. Casey and I really need to play some Malifaux. Bought a few gangs and never got round to playing. I need to get the 3rd edition book and new Lady Justice. Yeah, the rules are free online. You can always just download them as well from the Weird Games site. But the rule book is beautiful with the stuff that's in there. Peter says, alright, I'll catch up with the rest tomorrow. Early shift and a bad night, so doing some damage control. Take care, buddy. Thanks for coming in. Christian sharing the link there for some OG BlackJack Legacy hoodies, such as the one seen here as well with the BlackJack Legacy down the sleeve and the embroidered badge. Thank you very much. There was that Paul Hemsel just subscribed. Thank you very much, mate. John saying, I keep thinking I should try some Malifaux minis. Lots of chick models might tempt my daughter. At least that's what I'm hoping. I remember when Malifaux first came around, and of all the miniatures games that were out at the time, and I'm going back, I must be going back 10 years now. Of all the miniatures games that were around, I would say Malifaux was the one that attracted more kind of female players. And I think it was the fact that, unlike most other games at the time, there was quite a lot of female characters in it, because you had like female leaders and you had sort of like female henchmen and stuff. There was quite a lot of female characters in it. Some of them were quite sort of, should we say, sexualized, like the sort of the big chest and low cut tops and stuff like that. There were some like that, but they weren't all like that kind of thing. So you did have things like sort of models with sort of big coats and cowboy hats and sort of Japanese samurai type things. There was a good mix of stuff in there, and things have certainly changed over time with that kind of styling as well. But I think it, like, even when I used to go to Malifaux tournaments, there was always kind of female players there, and not that any game is sort of, like, oh, this is a boys' game, that's a girls' game kind of thing. There's none of that when it comes to miniatures. But I think some games are just sort of more approachable for folks who are getting into gaming. For example, from a visual aspect, I think Malifaux is one of those. Tony says, I'm much paint some more Malifaux minis. I do like one or two of them. They're beautiful. I've still got a stack of them that I need to kind of get on top of that. You know what I'm like. I'm a bit of a magpie. I love chopping and changing and stuff, but Malifaux stuff, like, it's the stuff I have is not stuff that I would just kind of like, not like, oh, I'm never going to get round to it, I'll just sell it or whatever. Like, it's there. It's like, oh, yeah, I can still see you. Like, you're there. I'm going to get back to you in a minute. Don't worry about it. David Warren says, all the Malifaux minis are the same scale as Crisis Protocol because I hate painting Marvel minis. What is it do you not like about them, mate? Because Marvel minis are a little bit bigger than like 28mm. Is that what you don't like? Malifaux minis are kind of, they're probably like 30mm scale. They're a bigger natural scale, if you like, than 28mm kind of. For example, if you took a human figure and you took like a Cadian trooper from 40k, it'll be bigger than that. But they're not like a weird sort of big scale or anything like that. Yeah, Spider-Lord saying Marvel is 40mm. I think Malifaux is 32. Do you know what? I'm not sure that's necessarily the case, because I had a picture up on a live stream a while ago where I'd compared Marvel minis to Malifaux minis to Wild West Exodus minis and to 40k minis, and I had some Warcry minis as well, and there wasn't a massive scale difference between them, to be fair. It wasn't massive. Matty Lumley, good evening, Matty. How are you doing? Says Malifaux's got some amazing aesthetics. Lovecraftian horror, steampunk, sci-fi, cowboy fantasy is a weird way to go, but it scratches a lot of itches. So essentially what happened was with Malifaux was the guys that own Weird Miniatures, which is what the company first started as, used to just like sculpt miniatures. They got some really nice minis sculpted that they absolutely loved. One of them was a painter, loved painting things that were a bit unusual, sculpted lots of different minis. And they got to a stage where they had this range of like random different minis, and it was like we should get a game really and see if we can kind of like put a game together for these. And because they'd sculpted them without any real structure around it of what they were trying to create, that's where this weird kind of world of Malifaux came around, where they were very different not different in style so much, because they all do hang together in a range, but they were different in background. So you had like sort of Japanese samurai, you had sort of Western inspired sort of female gunfighters, you had kind of sort of almost early 1920s sort of nobleman type things and stuff like that. There was a mixture of all different things. You then had kind of like teddy bears with claws and sort of blood dripping from their teeth. You had little kids with kind of like sort of scissors hidden behind their back and a bit of an evil grin on their face. They managed to pull it all together to this Malifaux universe, and it's absolutely awesome. Blizzard saying Malifaux, never heard of it. Jess says, kind of wish Andy had the old Top of the Pops music with this one, like da 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 da. Is it Whole Lot of Love, isn't it, I think? Andy Smith says, Kath built some models for Malifaux. Awesome. Good evening, John Binham. How are you doing? He says, yes, Malifaux for me is a game I just enjoy reading the rules and stories. Still never played it though. Yeah, and to be honest, mate, I think sometimes we kind of, we beat ourselves up about that kind of stuff. People like go, oh, I'm not buying this because I'll never get to play it. Nobody locally plays it, so I'm not getting into it, kind of thing. But most people spend so much time like painting and reading versus actually playing the game. Like some people do, some people are gamers and they love to play games. Like I did a little Twitter poll last week about would you call yourself mainly a gamer, mainly a painter, or mainly like the lore in the background. And I think it was kind of like almost 2/3 were mainly painters really. And I think you shouldn't beat yourself up about something. If there's a game that you really like the miniatures and you really like the universe, there's nothing wrong with buying the book to just kind of read the stories. There's nothing wrong with buying the minis just to paint them and pop them on a shelf or whatever it is. Like, you'll get more value for your money if you play the game, but let's be honest, like, unless you're playing on a regular basis, and not everyone does, you're gonna, you at least have to be invested in the minis. You've got to want to paint them. So yeah, there's lots of different sort of facets to this hobby, and if you don't play very often, or you've got your 40k army and you play all the time, but you've got nothing left to paint for it, there's nothing stopping you picking up something from a different range or something like that if you just want something to paint for a bit of fun. Tony said, I enjoyed painting up Dr. McMahon and I had a few from the Cult of the Burning Man for the other side. Yeah, I love the stuff you're doing for the other side, mate. Tolmart says, Malifaux and Walking Dead, I love them. Nice one, mate. Lord Baden saying you can get the free app. Yeah, of course, free app has the rules on there as well. Chorus is saying, night, it's getting late now. Take care, buddy. Rocky Mountain Air, good evening. He says, the Bayou models for Malifaux are amazing, but Gremlins are proof that Weird hates their customers. I've been modelling for more than a dozen years and have never assembled more fiddly models. I must admit, I keep hearing about this from people. I must admit, I have built so many Malifaux minis, and yeah, some of them are kind of like some small parts and things, but I wouldn't say they were any worse than any other range of minis. I've built some Marvel stuff that's fiddly as hell. I've built some Warhammer stuff that's fiddly as hell. I've built Mantic stuff that's not that great. Like, I wouldn't say they were any worse. I'm not saying that they're perfect, but I wouldn't personally say they're any worse than anybody else. Let's have a little look here. Ted Williams, good evening to you, mate. VG saying, nice, a squig orange dry brush has finally rescued these Martian Earth bases. Nice one, mate. Paul Hemstall, good evening, mate. He says, totally agree on Malifaux, have Wong in his army, but don't get to play enough. It's so difficult to break the GW stranglehold. I think a lot of people have that, mate, sadly, but I think that's the case for a lot of games. It's not a curse of Malifaux or anything like that. I think if you play anything that isn't a GW game, you have to make the effort to kind of go and find local players. John saying, I saw some boxes a few years ago back and noticed a lot of female crews, so it might fit the bill. I also hear they are a tad fiddly, lots of tiny bits. I wouldn't say there's lots of tiny bits. There are some small parts, but there's not lots. It's not like the models come in like 20 pieces for like one human-sized character type thing. There's some dynamic poses. And you can, they're not like multi-posable. You build them one way kind of thing. But I think it's just it's a bit like when everyone says, oh, like Mantic models are garbage kind of thing, like their sculpts are awful, or everyone says GW minis are expensive kind of thing. There's these terms which basically just kind of cover an entire like sort of range, and it kind of sticks with them, even though the fact that like not all weird miniatures are difficult to build. Not all Mantic minis are kind of awful. Like some of the older ones could need a bit of love, but the new stuff's fantastic. Like not everything GW produces is an absolute fortune. There's some bargains like amongst some of the things they do. Like some of their Underworld stuff, I think is really really good value. Some of those starter sets that they do to get you kind of people started in the game are absolute bargains. So there's a real mix of stuff, but I think people just like. There ends up being these little phrases that attach to every company or attach to every game that everyone kind of remembers, if you like. Like, I think the thing with X-Wing is, it's just like you have to buy certain ships that you don't want for the cards that you do want. That's the thing everyone remembers about X-Wing, for example. David says, I like the heroic scale of like Legion and GW. The tiny heads and slender bodies were a huge pain for me to paint as a newbie. I see what you mean. So they're more sort of humanly proportioned, if you like, more realistic. I would say that they're more realistic, but then most miniatures games are really outside of GW stuff. Austin Thornhill says, I had originally written off Malifaux because I didn't like the minis, but I saw you got me to take a second look and have fallen in love with the 10 Thunders faction. Those minis are beautiful. Yeah, I think it's one of those things, if you're prepared to look through them, that I would say out of all of the different games that's out there, Malifaux is the range that has something for everybody. I literally think there is something in that range. You might not want to collect the whole faction, you might not want to collect more than a box set, but I honestly think there is something in the range for everybody. Spiderlord says, yeah, really like the Malifaux rules, very tactical, they definitely are. Yeah, a whole lot of love, yeah. That's exactly what it was. DJ Casey says, I need some advice. I'm looking for a game where I can bring my girlfriend into the painting too by creating our own characters with the goal of using them in a game we can play together. We tried D&D ones, but it didn't work. We're looking for something with more structure, like on a board. To be honest, mate, I would say you have to ask her. Because at the end of the day, you're not trying to convince somebody to kind of to play or paint. You're not trying to kind of like trick them into it or anything like that. You just want them to do something that like, you know, give something a try. You might enjoy it, kind of thing. So I think it's one of them things where you kind of just want to. What is she like? You know, like does she read certain types of books or anything like that? Does she like certain types of movies? Does she like watching a certain TV show? Like, for example, does she love Star Wars? Does she love Marvel? Does she love Walking Dead? Does she love kind of Lovecraft type stuff? If she's got something that she genuinely has an interest in, that's how you'll maybe be able to kind of sort of say, well, how about we paint this together or something like that. The other side of it is she might just not be interested, mate, and there's nothing wrong with that either. In the same way that I'm sure you probably don't want to kind of get into in knitting as a hobby or something like that, you know, like it's everyone loves different things. Johnson, Mark Sticetail, sorry, he says, lore-wise, just read my first Gore-Tex and Felix book. Bring on Old Hammer. John saying, I noticed to paint Infinity models I have to use a less ham-fisted approach than I can get away with for my GW models. Much finer proportions. They're definitely finer proportions. I think as long as you just thin your paints down, but then don't sweat it, don't stress about it. You know, there's nothing wrong with just painting a skin tone and putting a wash over the top of it kind of thing and being done with it. David says, so is Malifaux the big game and the other side is the smaller game? Other way around, mate, and it's not like Code 1 and N4 with Infinity. The other side is the bigger game and Malifaux is the smaller game, but they're set in the same universe, but they're different games, mate. They're not like, it's not like if I add more models I can play the other side kind of thing. They're different games. Think of them like how could I put them together? Think of them like Underworlds is like Malifaux, and then Age of Sigmar is like the other side. They're different games. They're set in the same universe. Some of the models kind of cross over, but they're different rules. Paul says, at least they're hard plastic. Yeah, if you want to annoy yourself, buy Forge World Resin. You're not wrong there, mate. Spylaw says, I'm mainly a painter, though I'm no master. You don't have to be a master at your hobby, mate. I say this all the time. You don't need to be good at your hobby. You just need to enjoy it. You can be great at something and not enjoy it, or you can be sort of average at something, but if you have a lot of like fun and a lot of love, it's like people who like sort of like enjoy cooking. They don't suddenly need to become a chef. They don't need to kind of be able to open a Michelin star restaurant. They just need to enjoy the process. The food doesn't even have to taste good. They just need to enjoy the cooking kind of thing. James says, I know a few people who buy miniatures and games but never play them. It all depends on what you want. Exactly that. Vaughan Wood saying, fiddly, the old metal monsters from GW were fiddly. Yeah, that's it. I don't like metal models, if I'm honest, because the pinning them and stuff is a bit of a pain in the backside. I get away with Infinity stuff because they're quite small, but even when you're doing the kind of like the bigger mech stuff and you end up having to pin stuff, it's a bit of a pain. I'm not. So I'd rather have fiddly plastic models than big heavy metal stuff. Casey and Mantic resins are obviously perfect, of course. Spylaw says the range Andy's talking about have some of the custom build kits, but they aren't the easiest to assemble. Sadly, custom build kits. Yeah, I don't know what that means. Kerry Off, hello mate. He says even the most fiddly modern minis are so much nicer to assemble than old metal GW stuff. I couldn't agree more, mate. Honestly, I think it's like I said before. I think everybody says these certain ranges have certain kind of like sort of tags that come alongside them, and people remember like oh, Malifaux stuff's fiddly. There's the odd sort of fiddly miniature, but like, I've mentioned this one before. I remember building the Necromunda set, and one of the Goliaths having a cigar for his mouth that was separate on the sprue, and there was only one, and it was one of those things where it was too short to kind of hold your fingers onto it and clip it off, and if you clip it, it would spring across the room. You'd never see that again, especially because I've got a grey carpet in my hobby room. Like that to me is fiddly. And then he's got a hole in his gob. Then you're trying to kind of sort of sculpt something to stick in and make it look right again. There are fiddly minis in every range out there. And yeah, I would agree there as well with Kirioth as well. Basically, old metal GW stuff. Yeah, I'll take it any day. Sorry, I do know what you mean about the custom characters. The custom characters for Malifaux are the ones that are actually for the other side, really. Where are we up here? Let me skip ahead a little bit here. David's having a chat there as well. Frostgrave was a question mark. Oh, I think you're talking about for DJ Casey there. John saying, I don't avoid metal miniatures, but always feel compelled to drill and pin everything. I always just feel like I want to just get through them and get them done, to be honest. She said, give me some options. Okay, that's different then. Yeah, find out what she wants me. I think that's the best one. Thank you, Christian, sharing the link there for the merch. Appreciate that, buddy. Jez says, my missus really enjoyed Rangers of Shadow Deep as her first game. Lee saying, Malifaux game seems mint. Fiddly minis put me off. See, that's the thing. They're not fiddly. Honestly, they're not fiddly. Robert Saxon and Nudge says, I played my first game of Kings of War. I'm trying to branch out from just GW. Played Night Stalkers against Northern Alliance. What struck me was how good the minis look. Definitely a new Kings of War player. Yeah, again, mate, I think it's first of all, thank you for coming to the chat tonight. Second of all, I think it's another one of those things where a company gets a reputation based upon a couple of kind of minis and everybody remembers them. And I think Mantic probably 10 years ago had some minis that were maybe not the best. They were super cheap. You got loads in a box, but they weren't necessarily the best. Things have come a hell of a long way in 10 years' time. Production's changed. They get their minis made elsewhere. They got different sculptors. They've got a lot of resin stuff in-house now. All I could say is the new stuff's fantastic, but it doesn't mean that people who only ever talk about the old stuff, and some people like to be kind of anti-GW or anti-Mantic or anti-sort of Fantasy Flight or whatever it is, and unfortunately those kind of sort of stigmas hang around, don't they? Cat Smith said, I was drawn to the hobby by being dragged to GW shops. Geeky, stupid gaming. 70 quid later. Spider Lord, I see your Yanlow's beard and raise you a Blood Bowl witch else thumb. There you go. Exactly, mate. John says, I'm good at eating. That's a hobby, right? I certainly managed to make a full-time job out of it, mate, to be fair. Let me have a look. Spider Lord says, I meant the male-female build your own kits into the breach. Yeah, that's the ones I thought we'd talk about there, mate. John says, I've way too many metal models in the stash. Yeah, I don't, other than Infinity stuff, I don't think I have any metal models now. Ed saying, I still have PTSD from all the metal minis I painted in the 80s. Yeah, Through the Breach. Spider Lord saying, yeah, that's the one, mate. It is Through the Breach stuff. Right, I think. Matt saying, Oathsworn's Burrs and Badges restored my faith in metals, but they're practically all one piece. Yeah, that is one of the cases. Yeah, I'm much more inclined if they're one piece stuff from that respect. Let me catch up a bit here. I'm just skimming through the chart. Andy says the Malifaux kit's Cath did look to have a few more bits in the kit than others, but not fiddly. Yeah. And Tony saying Mantic's new minis and resins are really nice. I can't recommend them enough. Awesome. Right. Let's how are we doing for time? Ooh, I'll tell you what, we've got plenty of chat tonight, so we'll get back to the chat. We'll get back to the stream, I should say, or back to the subjects, and we'll go here. So that was number 3. Yeah, Malifaux takes the bronze medal. So in silver position, in second place for 2021's games I've played this year, I have put Deadzone. And the reason Deadzone's kind of got into here is I liked Deadzone sort of 2.0. I liked the old version of it, but I wasn't that keen on the layout of the rulebook and the layout of the kind of like the stats and stuff like that. It needed a bit of a tweak, a bit of an update. There was lots of FAQs had come along and some tweaks and things, and the rulebook was hard to recommend to people to pick up Deadzone because the starter set wasn't in stock very often because of sort of issues, shipping issues and everything else that's been going on through the last year. And the rulebook, when you bought the rulebook, it was kind of instantly out of date. So along came Deadzone 3.0, put all of those things right. The stat lines now for all of the for the models and the ranges, the armies, are really, really sort of, honestly, I can't even begin to tell you how much happy I am about them. I love the way they've got a rule book and then an army list book, and everything that you need to play is in those 2 books. You don't have to worry about kind of searching around. Some of the new models look fantastic. It's nice that there's a bit more terrain now for it, and obviously along with a sort of a new edition comes a bit of renewed interest from people as well, and along with that comes more players to play against. So I played a bit of Deadzone kind of 2.0 earlier this year. I've played about a few games. I think I've played 5 games of Deadzone 3 now. I played with John Estel, and I've played a couple of games against a friend as well at home since then as well. And it's one of those games that it needs to be played to be appreciated. I don't think it really comes across from the rules. It's on a 2x2 mat, so it's not even a big game. It does need a bit more terrain than your average game. I think it really, really works well when you've got lots of terrain. You get some in the starter set. There's a lot in there, but I would instantly go and probably double what's in there to make the game feel a bit more interesting. I just think it's another one of those games, like a lot of the stuff that Mantic does, where the rules are relatively straightforward, but there's a lot of depth in the tactics, and it's fast playing, and it's just a lot of fun. It looks great on the table. If you're playing a game of Deadzone and somebody walks past the table and you've got all this terrain kind of set up, it looks awesome. There are some kind of factions I'm not that keen on so much, just physically from the style of the miniatures, but that's a personal thing. I'm not saying they're bad quality, they're just not my jam, if you like. But by the same stretch, there's some that I absolutely love. I'm a big fan of the Veerman, for example. But for me, it kind of ticks all them boxes. The thing that it doesn't do for me at the minute is it doesn't really give me any kind of background kind of lore or anything to kind of read up on or listen to podcasts or stories or anything like that. That's one thing I would say it was kind of missing. But purely from I can buy a box of this stuff, I can paint it up, and I can play a really fun, quick game. And it's not a game that I have to kind of study to remember the rules. That's why this one's number 2 for me this year. The fact that I'm going to get more games of this than I'll get of Malifaux, purely based upon kind of local players and things like that, and this is a much easier game to kind of teach to friends and family and stuff. That's why this is number 2. I hummed and hawed with 2 and 3, I'll be honest, which way I would flip it. But that's why Deadzone's number 2 for me. I think the new starter box is a great set to get. I think the minis that you get in there really do show off that Mantic's newer models are much nicer than people give them credit for. And I just think it's a game I would urge everybody to try at least once, because when you play it and you realise there's no tape measure, so how on earth does this thing work? It is just so straightforward. Like the way movement works, the way shooting works. There's a few quirky rules in there about like kind of moving between cubes, but once you've played it a couple of times, they become second nature. So yeah, number 2 on the list for my game of 2021. My game of 2021, remember as well, not the game of 20. Like, it's not like everybody else's votes. This is just what I think. Deadzone is in second place there. So let's have a little look in the chat again and see what folks are saying. Alan Stewart, thank you very much for the donation there, buddy. I've just seen that ping on my screen. I'm sorry it wasn't on when I flicked across the other one. I had the notifications turned off, but I've just seen it ping up when I've come back here. It says, always enjoy the show on the channel. Don't catch you live often enough. Maybe we can inspire a few quid for you in the run up to Christmas. Have a pint on me, mate. Thank you very much, mate. I do appreciate that. And then I've also just seen as well, Al Cluley, thank you very much as well, mate, for yours. And he says, would Deadzone 3.0 be easy enough to teach someone who's never played a minis game before, say compared to Kill Team or Warcry? Yes, definitely, mate. I think the biggest differences with Deadzone over those games is there's no measurement to worry about. So, like, I know, like my wife likes playing board games and stuff, but she's not always kind of like overly into as soon as she sees tape measures or like measurement sticks and stuff coming out, she's like, oh, I can't be with that, like, kind of thing. So that is one less barrier to work about. For example, if it says kind of, if your movement's 2, you move 2 squares or you move 2 cubes. As opposed to stat lines never change, so there's no modifiers, as in, like, it's not like, oh, this is a 3+ to hit, but you've got this armor, so now it's a 4+, but I've got this gun, so now it's a 2+. There's none of that stuff. It's just the modifications are things like I'm higher than you, so I add another dice. It's that kind of stuff. A nice little kind of cheat sheet kind of shows you all those sort of modifier things, and those modifiers are just adding more dice to it. I don't think you ever take dice away. I think you only ever add dice to it, so you'll never go below 3 dice, but you will add to it if you've got a clear shot, if you're higher up, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I would say purely based upon that, the fact it's on a smaller board, the fact that it's sort of stat lines are fixed, there's no movement to measure, I think it's an easier game to kind of get into. Let's have a little look here. Right, David Warren saying Deadzone Infinity and now I guess Malifaux are games I'm looking at. Legion is my big game, but I want to play smaller and fewer model count games. Yeah, I would say Deadzone's definitely got less models, I would say, than like sort of Legion, for example. Yeah. Let's have a little look here. Casey, and the difference between 2 and 3 is astounding. 3rd edition is so attention grabbing, beautifully presented, amazing art, so colourful. 2 looked like it was made in someone's shed. I think once you got into the table, that like it wasn't really that different, but I think like just the presentation was a bit dated from version 2 really, and it's not that it's not had a lot of love from Mantic. It's still sort of had attention to given to it and stuff, but it's just it was just ready for a refresh, like all stuff does after a period of time. VG's saying, great thing about Deadzone, such a large range of factions. Yeah, that's the other side of it as well, is it's not a new game, therefore now it's a 3rd edition, it's fully fleshed out from like lots of different options and stuff as well. John Binham saying, fantastic game, one of those tactical games where I'm not fighting the game, just my opponent. Agree, it needs some novels to flesh it out. Yeah, I mean, they're starting to try and get there a little bit now with the new edition. I like a bit of background. I like the kind of sort of feel a little bit immersed in the world. I'm not the most tactical gamer in the world. I'm competitive, as in like I like to play and I like to win, but like I'm not. I don't worry about it if I don't win or not, kind of thing. I'm not the best gamer in the world, but I enjoy playing, and so I like to kind of immerse myself in the background and in the lore and in the stories, kind of, so that there's a bit of like there's a story playing out on the tabletop kind of thing. And I'm not that familiar. I'll be honest. I'm not that familiar with the Deadzone background or the Warpath universe at all. So I'd personally like a little bit more of that as well. Tom Mod saying, does the Deadzone starter box come with terrain? It does, mate. Yes, it comes with a decent amount of terrain, but I think the game plays much better with more, if I'm honest. But it's certainly playable with what comes in the box. John saying, 2-Bagmatic stuff isn't well distributed here. I never see it at area stores, not for about 5 or 6 years. I think it's just one of those things, mate. It depends on what the stores do. Like, unfortunately, it's a self kind of fulfilling prophecy, as if stores don't sell it, people won't play it, and if people don't play it, stores won't sell it. It's just, unfortunately, it's just that kind of thing. Blaze was saying, I put Deadzone second on my list too, behind only Malifaux. Nice taste, mate. Wolf Lancer saying, so far the only one I've heard of is Malifaux. Wasn't interested in it because of the card mechanic. The card mechanic's great, mate. I do appreciate it's not for everyone, but the card mechanic is great. Tabletop Ramble says, Deadzone's a fantastic game. Introduced a couple of new players this year and it went down really well. Ed's just took something there I was about to actually say. He says, Deadzone would have been my backup if Kill Team 21 hadn't been such a solid game. I think, unfortunately for Mantic, and not knowing that this was happening, it's not like GW decided to release something because Mantic were, or Mantic decided to release something because GW were, but it's coincided with the new Kill Team coming. And I think if the new Kill Team hadn't come along, I think a lot of Kill Team players who were a little bit kind of like sort of a bit tired of the rules and the complicated rules of the older Kill Team 18, I suppose it was. I think they might have picked this up and give it a try, even if they just tried the rules out with their GW minis. I think they would have given it a try and maybe saw what it was all about. But it's coincided with a new Kill Team coming, so anybody that was kind of on the fence, kind of thinking, I've kind of had enough of Kill Team the way it is, it needs a refresh. They got exactly what they wanted, and I think that's the only downside, really. Andy Smith saying, is Curse City the winner? I can tell you Curse City is not the winner. It wasn't even on my list. It was on my list of stuff I played this year. It wasn't on the top anything. John says, I got an Enforcer starter box back in 2014, first edition of the game, I assume, out of the bargain bin at area store. Good value. Yeah, you can still use it, mate, as well. John says, there are a handful of games that you take away dice, like fighting that's it, mate. I knew there was a couple of things, but most of the time you don't take away dice. Everything is just, you start with your 3 dice and then you kind of like you add to it from there. And Sean saying, yeah, you never take dice away. After a couple of turns and modifiers are in your head. The Warpath Source Book has masses of lore to read. It's nice that it's in the Warpath Source Book, but unfortunately I don't have it, and I'm not really kind of like, I don't ever really want to play it at that scale, so I'd never really pick it up, unfortunately. So and I'd never would have got a chance to kind of to pick it up really for that thing. The Last Star Strider says, I'm big into Kill Team, so I gotta try Deadzone. If you see somebody playing it, or you can, I think the rules are free at the moment if you pick up the latest copy of is it Tabletop Games Magazine or War Games Illustrated or something. The rules are free, the PDF. It's a game that deserves to be tried. I'm not saying everybody will love the minis, I'm not saying everybody would love the game, but it's a game that deserves to be kind of to be tried and to be given a shot. Or Sean saying the Warpath Source Book is free on the Mantic website. I'll have to have a look then, mate. I didn't realise that. Christian sharing the link there as well for Goblin Gaming. Thank you very much, mate. If you do shop through my affiliate link, you get the same discounted price that you see on the screen, and I make a small commission, so it does help keep the lights on the channel. Thank you. John says, it's the game that makes me feel like I'm the most part of the game. Quick turns, needing to look at every angle. In other games, I feel like they're almost 2D, but Deadzone is properly 3D. That's a great shout, mate. You do feel like you're kind of like, you're weighing up the options, you're looking around the battlefield. It's not just a case of, I'll push this forward, I'll roll my dice. I'll push this forward, I'll roll my dice. Yeah, I would completely agree. The Last Star Strider says, GW is always releasing, it's annoying. 1 week after Rain in Hell AOS 3 was announced. The thing is that GW, like, This is what they do. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. They're a company. They release stuff to sell. That's exactly what they're meant to do. But what they do is they are a company that will have an unbelievable release schedule, because it makes it really difficult for kind of small gaming stores to decide what to put on their shelves. And if they know there's new GW stuff coming out almost on a weekly basis, why would you put some obscure game on that like is brand new, that nobody's heard of, no matter how good it is, if you know that you'll sell, like you might sell 100 copies of the new GW release, or you might sell 3 or 4 copies of this brand new awesome new game that's come out. And unfortunately, that's their business model, and it hampers everybody else. It's because there's channels like this and other channels who focus on all the other stuff that's out there that people get to hear about some of this stuff. And if it wasn't for that, unfortunately, a lot of those guys, the smaller companies, they just wouldn't even get any airtime. Tabletop Rumble says, anybody wants a cheap digital version of the rules, you can get a free copy. That's the one I was talking about. Marco says, I'm surprised not to see Warcry in the top 5. I played it again last week. It was my first game with Catacombs and was amazing. Do you know why it's not in the top 5, mate? Because I have not played a game of it this year. I have not played one game of Warcry this year. I've never played Catacombs yet. I've got all the stuff painted. I painted the 2 armies in it. I painted all of the terrain. I've still never played a game of Warcry this year. That's why it's not in the top 5. Star Strider says, I meant Deadzone has squats and space scaling. Right, yes. Andy says, have you done Deadzone how to play vid? I haven't, made, because I filmed all of the Mantic ones. So I filmed the Mantic how to play series of videos, and then basically gave it to them. They were in it. I just filmed it, edited it all together, and then uploaded it to their YouTube channel. So I didn't do one because there's one there, and it would look just the same because I filmed it here in this studio. So yeah, I didn't do one. But please check out the Mantic ones, because they're really good, because I did them. George says he's just in from an ignominious defeat in Deadzone. Chris Hill says, most of these games are on my want to play, but no one around me will play list. I think, as I said before as well, you kind of have to look at your hobby. If you're a gamer, first and foremost, play the games that you can play. Like you almost have to sacrifice. Like, I might not like them minis, but I can definitely get a game every single week. Sometimes you've got to have a bit of a sacrifice. If you're somebody that maybe plays like 3 times a year, maybe rethink about where you spend your money, because actually you might get more bang for your buck by just painting stuff that you enjoy more, kind of thing. Last Star Strider says, true that it's how GW does stuff. I appreciate you pushing all the other stuff. Thank you. I don't like to kind of see me as pushing stuff. I don't make any money out of these games kind of selling well or selling poorly or whatever it is. I don't get paid by anybody. Nobody kind of like sort of encourages me to cover certain games. I just talk about the stuff that I'm interested in. The GW stuff, I think, is really, really nice models. I'm not a huge fan of the games because it's not my kind of thing. So that's why I don't talk about them, really. That's all it is. Ed saying, you're missing out. Catacombs is just brilliant. Just haven't managed to kind of get any games in, mate. That's all it is. John saying, most popular games seem to be GW, Marvel, Star Wars, Infinity, local game stores, not many others. Even that's a good mix compared to a lot of places, mate, to be fair. Yeah, by pushing I mean covering. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's it. Right, what we'll do is then we will dive into my number 1 slot now. If I just get my screen back up here. If I can find my buttons, here we go. So we'll get back into number 1 slot. So just to recap, for those that maybe didn't see, number 5 we had Moonstone. In fact, let me go back. There we go. Number 5 we had Moonstone. Number 4 we had Overdrive. Number 3 we had Malifaux. Number 2 we had Deadzone, and of course I'm sure it's no surprise to most people, at number 1 this year I've got Marvel Crisis Protocol. It's a game that I decided I wasn't going to talk about on the live streams or on the channel. It was something that I wanted for a little kind of sort of just bit of hobby for me in the background, something to kind of to paint and it not be work, something to play and it not be work, kind of thing. And just to help me kind of get over these first couple of years as somebody running their own business for the first time, trying to differentiate where work stops and where hobby starts. And that's what I decided I would do with this game. However, the game has absolutely hook and line kind of grabbed me really. I absolutely love Marvel Crisis Protocol. It's the one I've probably spent the most money on this year buying stuff. Not just because it's more expensive, but because I absolutely genuinely kind of like love collecting the stuff. I love the collecting side of it. I'm really enjoying the painting side of it. I'm loving building terrain for it. When I say building, I mean like 3D printing and that kind of stuff, and some of the plastic kits from Atomic Mass Games themselves. I love the mechanics to the game. I love the fact that you can basically just pick any characters you want, as long as 51% of your force is from the same kind of affiliation. You can use the leader's affiliation abilities, but you don't have to. You can play this game super casual. Some of the sets come with kind of like I forget what they're called now, but they're like little mission type things. So if you buy the Dormammu set, if you buy the Thanos set, amongst others, there's these kind of like little narrative type of mission things that you can play. There's a really kind of lively community sort of sprung up for this one now. Loads of events every weekend. Like if you're somebody that's thinking like, oh, there's only GW stuff gets played, I personally see more Marvel events happening than I do GW stuff these days. And I think it's fantastic to see something else up there and doing well. Quality of the minis is great. I'm a big fan of them. They're plastic. Some of them are fiddly, just the same way some other kind of companies have fiddly stuff. But I've not found anything I couldn't build. For example, I've not found anything where it's been a sort of an exercise in frustration or anything like that. I'm just absolutely loving it. And to be honest, like alongside the fact that from a lore perspective, if you like, from a background perspective, you've got like sort of however many years, is it 80 years of Marvel comics to go back and read. You've got the whole MCU universe. You've got all the Disney Plus shows that's coming on. You've got some of the Netflix shows like sort of Daredevil and Defenders and Punisher and all that kind of stuff. There's so much stuff out there to kind of immerse yourself in that for me, it just kind of ticks all the boxes at the moment. I'm loving playing it. It's a game that certainly benefits you kind of getting more games in and understanding the kind of the synergies and the fine kind of abilities between the different stuff. But it's not a difficult game to play. It's a super straightforward system. And it really feels like you're playing superheroes. Some games, like John was saying before about Deadzone, it's a game that feels kind of 3D. Deadzone, you're really getting in, you're looking behind the miniatures, you're looking at the battlefield, you feel like you're part of the game. Some games are just about pushing models forward and rolling dice. But this one has got a lot of theme to it. It's got a lot of heart to it, and you feel like you're playing superheroes. You're picking cars up and you're throwing them around, like you're shooting laser beams across kind of like sort of across the battlefield. Hulk's doing his thunderclap and sort of like knocking people around and things. There's a lot of kind of sort of heart gone into this, and a lot of thought gone into the characters feeling like they do when you see them on the screen and stuff. So if you've not tried it, again, it's another one of those games I would really, really recommend that you give it a try. It's not the cheapest game out there, but then by the same stretch, you don't need a lot of models. If you're just wanting to play, you can certainly just buy the models you want and just play those. However, if like me, you end up being a collector, it can get quite expensive because there's a lot to collect, and like I say, they're not the cheapest. But for me personally, I feel like I'm getting value out of them. I'm enjoying building them, and building minis is not something I generally enjoy. I'm enjoying painting them, and I'm enjoying playing the games. And while I'm sitting painting, I'm putting things like Daredevil on in the background, or watching sort of Hawkeye and stuff and things like that. So I'm enjoying my hobby because I feel like I'm kind of like immersed in this game at the moment. I would say out of all the games I've played, and I'd potentially go back probably till when I first started playing, this is the one I felt the biggest affinity with, really, to feel like the whole hobby, if you like, everything around it, not just the playing the game thing, or not just painting a mini, feeling like I'm kind of immersed in and around that kind of like universe and stuff. So yeah, again, I'm not recommending that you go out and sort of rush out and pick it up, but if you can get a chance to kind of get a demo of this, 100% give it a demo and give it a try. There's a load of buzz about it at the minute, and rightly so as well. There's loads of places have got this cheap at the moment with the Black Friday and the Cyber Monday stuff. I know somebody was saying in the chat recently that I think it was like £54 or something from Zatu Games. Like, for that price, it's an absolute bargain. You can buy the starter set and never buy anything again if you just want to play the game. If you just want to paint some superhero minis and play the game, it has everything you need to play. You could legitimately take what's in that starter set and go and play in a tournament. You might not have the most powerful list kind of thing, but you can legitimately just play with what's in there. Everything you need in that box. So yeah, that's my number one. Crisis Protocol by Atomic Mass Games is my game of 2021. I'll definitely be playing it into next year. It will definitely be on my list of games that get played for 2022. And I was fortunate to get some stuff for my birthday as well. I've got a nice list of stuff that I'm sort of building up and painting and in the middle of and things. But I've just been kind of sitting quietly, really not really raving about it, because it's kind of like my little quiet hobby in the background type thing, really. But it's kind of spilling over to the point I'm enjoying it so much. I kind of really can't not talk about it anymore. So yeah, so that is my game of 2021. So folks, let's have a little look here. Let's see where we're up to. Greg saying, oh yeah, VJ says shock horror. Greg says, Marvel for sure my number one this year, but the game I swore I'd never play, Legion, is for sure a fictitious run. Good local community and fun game. A local community definitely kind of sort of certainly helps from when you're playing games as well. Aaron Black, good evening. He says, between Marvel and Dust 1947, I'm satiated for tabletop gaming. Yes, I'm aware production of Dust has stopped, but this is the third time it's stopped. There is that, mate, yeah. Ted saying, very true, Andy. Stargrave's not my favourite rules and the minis aren't the most inspiring, but I've played more games of that than anything else. I like good rules, I like clean rules, I like interesting, fun games, but most of all, I just enjoying myself. Like, and a game doesn't have to be the best game out there if it's the game I enjoy playing the most. It just so happens with Marvel is actually the rules are really, really super clean, and it plays really well, but that... It doesn't necessarily make a fun game. There's some games out there with excellent rules that just don't interest me because it's not my theme, really. They're not my type. Lord Maiden says, yeah, you buttered my bagel with Marvel and I played it once. Now I want all the X-Men related models and it's down to you. Ultimate Encounters, that's what they call. I couldn't remember the name. Yeah, Ultimate Encounters are definitely those kind of things that you get with some of the bigger model sets. So things like the Thanos box, things like the Dormammu box, get these Ultimate Encounters, and they're kind of like these kind of like narrative thematic event things. Brandon says, have you tried Silver Bayonet? I haven't, mate. It's not really my kind of style, to be fair, so I probably won't try it, if I'm honest, unless somebody else is kind of like demoing it or something like that and I get to try it. But it's not something I would probably spend my money on. Spiderlord saying, yeah, they give you spares for the fiddly bits too. They do that, mate, as well. They give you one interesting thing with this is they give you like options. So I was just building the Carnage model today, for example, and they give you options about how you want these arms and stuff like that. And if there's anything particularly fiddly, they tend to give you multiples of it in case one of them pings off. You've got a spare kind of thing. Tony says, no surprise there. It's a good call though. I wish Marvel United was a little easier to get a hold of, but I can't gripe as I get loads of other stuff. Has it just... I don't know a lot about Marvel United, to be fair. Is it coming out of the Kickstarter rating, the kind of thing where it's the Kickstarter's delivered it, but it's not quite at stores yet? I don't really know a lot about it, if I'm honest. Luke says, having put together 2 Star Wars Legion Yodas, I can attest to the fact there are fiddly minis in all ranges. 100%, mate, yeah. Games Masters Hobby, good evening, welcome to the stream. Says, very tempted to pick this one up. I think for a sort of a deal price, like sort of £50 or whatever, it's an absolute no-brainer. I think if you're on the fence about it, that should be enough to do it. Major Tom says, have you built Jean Grey yet? The flight stand is awful. I haven't. I do have Jean Grey to build, but I haven't built her yet, to be fair. Jason says he's getting that off the missus for Christmas. Joe McCulloch seems to hit my game button. I'm not a massive fan, if I'm honest, of Joe McCulloch's games, but not because I think they're bad games. I've never actually played them. It's just that they don't really kind of scratch my itch. They're not the kind of game that I enjoy playing, really. So that's why I've never really kind of looked at them. So Rangers of Shadow Deep, Stargrave, Frostgrave, they've just never really interested me, that's all. So maybe again one of those things where if somebody kind of gave me a demo, I could completely change my mind about it, but they've never interested me enough that I've wanted to spend my cash on them, really. Matty Lumley saying, yeah, Marvel's definitely shown itself as a big player on the market lately. It's really interesting because it launched at a time when kind of COVID came along. So I think it came out November 2019. Corset came out. I think Hulk was out. MODOK was out. That was probably about it at the time. And then we started to get into there might have been another couple of boxes, to be fair. And then we kind of hit into COVID and stuff like that. And it's amazing to think that I think people, obviously Disney Plus had come out, all the Marvel stuff was on TV over that period of time, things like WandaVision, things like Falcon and Winter Soldier and Loki. And I think, obviously, there was a lot of films as well, not so many films actually thinking about it, because things like Black Widow and stuff were delayed. But I think maybe it was just the right time. People were looking for something to maybe just pick up and paint, try something. The online kind of tabletop simulator version of Marvel Crisis Protocol is really, really good, and I think a lot of people played it online. And I think it's one of them things where people were quite happy just to pick it up and kind of sit and paint and maybe collect. It was maybe just the right game at the right time. George says Deadzone first edition had loads more terrain, but as I have second and third plus more, I have more than enough to never have boards being replicated. Yeah, it's nice to have a bit more stuff for it, mate. Brandon says, could they buy the rights to DC? Also, I think they're model games for that already, so I guess that answers my own question. The DC version basically mate, is the Batman miniatures game. And that is with Night Models at the moment, and I've heard really, really good things about the newer version of that, and that it's a really good game. I'm not a huge fan of Night Models as a company themselves, for a number of different reasons, but I've heard the Batman miniatures game is pretty good, to be fair, but I haven't played it to kind of comment on it. Let's have a little look. Alan Stewart says, might as well repeat it for another one that I missed. Marvel Crisis Protocol core set, £54 exactly on Cyber Monday. It's absolutely fantastic price. Paul's just saying, did you ever do Batman miniatures game? I did try it when it was back in kind of first and second edition, mate, and it was a bit of a car crash, to be honest. I liked the minis. They were metal minis back then, I think. And they were nice sculpts and stuff like that. They're resin now, and I heard horror stories about the resin quality. Again, it's another one of those things that kind of sticks with a company. I'm not going to spend my money on them to see if they've changed. I'd rather somebody else tells me that they have changed, kind of thing. But Night Models is sort of customer service has kind of is pretty terrible, or it has been in the past. So yeah, I've never really got round to trying it for that reason, to be honest. Batman was always my favourite when I was younger when it comes to comics and stuff, so it's a bit of a shame, really. I would have liked to have seen the Batman game being as big as this, but as it is, I'm happy with the Marvel stuff now. Matty Lumley saying, yeah, Night is the Batman game. Pretty much impossible to track anything down from it in the UK, though. Yeah. David says, glad you like it. It's not my thing personally. I'm selling my copy, but your channel has definitely helped me find Deadzone for $3, and thanks for that. You are welcome, mate. As I said before, mate, yeah, it's all personal taste. We're not all going to like the same stuff, but yeah, it surprised me. It was a game I wasn't going to pick up, to be fair, and I'm glad that I did. Ice Moon says, the recent Super Chatter overlay seems to have been delayed or frozen. Yeah, sometimes it does that, mate, to be fair. I don't know why it's doing it. It's sometimes just what'll happen is when I come out of it and refresh it, it'll probably update itself, because it hasn't, like there's a little feed where it comes through and they haven't even fed through properly. But normally it kind of if I shut it down and restart it, it'll come through again. Where are we up to here? George is saying his group are about to start a Deadzone campaign, which adds even more interest to a great game. Nice one, mate. Spylord saying Legion's defo a step up with the increased scale. I think we're comparing it to Imperial Assault, weren't you? Last Star Strider says, as a Marvel fan all my life, I don't know why I hadn't started this yet. I know exactly what you mean, mate. It's funny because I was kind of the same. I love the Marvel movies and stuff like that. And I kind of talked myself out of it for whatever reasons. Well, I did a video a while ago about 5 reasons why I was totally wrong about the Marvel miniatures game, and I think that kind of sums up why I didn't pick it up at the time. But I'm super glad that I did. Mark says, Joe's game, love reading the books but not played much of it itself. Marvel must resist. X-Men are a big draw. Yeah, there's a lot more X-Men stuff coming soon as well. Juggernaut's coming soon. Gambit's coming soon. Somebody else, Magic. Who was the other one? I think there's somebody else. I forget now who it is, but yeah, there's a few. Games Masters Hobby says, how much did your top 5 list change since last year? I don't think I did a top 5 last year, but I think I certainly did. I think if I go back a year, Kings of War was on the list because I was playing. I was just first getting into Kings of War, and then obviously with the lockdown stuff and that things, it's just not happened at all. I've not had one game of Kings of War this year. To be fair, another reason why it's not on the list. Warcry. I was playing loads of Warcry with my brother-in-law. We've not really had a game together in a long time at the minute. Again, lockdown stuff, not getting a chance to see each other, kind of get out of the swing of things and that. What else would have been back on the list then as well? I think I'm trying to think back now. Was there anything else on the list that I was kind of playing around then? I forget now. I forget what was probably on last year's list. Rob Fannelton, hello mate. He says, long time since I've been on a stream. I honestly thought Armada was going to be number 1. Do you know what, mate? It was really close. I would say it was like my number 6. It was really, really close to being on the list, but I'll be completely honest. It probably didn't get a number 5 purely based upon the fact that I had 2 other Mantic games on the list as well, and I think I was subconsciously thinking, I don't want it to just be all Mantic stuff. I know I play a lot of Mantic stuff, and I really enjoy the Mantic things. I've played a lot of Armada this year as well. I've enjoyed painting them. I went to the event and really enjoyed it. I think I just I probably just wanted to. Especially in that like number 5 slot where it wasn't like kind of, you know, it's not my game of the year kind of thing or anything like that. It's not like whether it was going to be number 1 or number 2. Yeah, I think that's the only reason it probably wasn't there. Ed saying the tabletop simulator community for Marvel was huge. Yeah, it definitely was, mate. Mark saying Marvel versus Moonstone. Marvel every single day of the week, mate, I would say. Where are we up to there? RPD says, I've bought Marvel starter box, glued all the minis, and that's it. Never touched it since and never played it. I don't know why. I think we all do that with some starter boxes, mate. You never get a chance, but honestly, give it a shot. You'll be really surprised with just how cool it is. Mark saying, Deadzone also learned on the day at a tournament. Yeah, exactly, mate. Rob says, what are the top 3 games you want to try in 2022? I definitely want to get more Kings of War in. I've got my Halfling army that I'm building up. I've got my Dwarf army that I painted as well for my slow grow challenge that I've never really had the chance to get out and kind of use. So yeah, Kings of War I definitely want to do more. I'll definitely be playing more Marvel stuff. Is there anything I really kind of desperately want to try? Let me kind of balance it a different way then. So these are games I would like to try that I probably wouldn't spend any money on, but I would like to try them just to kind of form an opinion. I'd like to try New Kill Team, because I hear people kind of seem to be liking it, but I'm not really interested in spending any money on it at the moment, but I would like to try it to see what it's like. I'd like to try Song of Ice and Fire, because I'm hearing good things about that as well. It feels like a lot of the issues that they had around supply problems and stuff like that seem to have gone away, but I've never even had a demo of it, so I'd quite like to try that. And is there anything else that I'd like to try? I wouldn't mind giving Bolt Action a shot, if I'm honest. I wouldn't mind giving Bolt Action a shot. I'm not hugely enamoured by the kind of like the historical sort of community, as in terms of like that kind of like rivet counter mentality, that thing that you hear about. I have no idea whether that's the case, but like things like there was a conversation on Twitter today with Sonic Sledgehammer, who was getting like a bit of grief on one of his videos because he'd basically kind of condemned the Nazis. Yeah, I think he was painting Germans or something like that, but that it basically like sort of said that. I didn't actually see it, so I don't know the details, but from what he'd said, he'd basically said, you know, like that Nazis were the bad guys kind of thing, and then he'd basically getting a load of grief from people about it randomly. So that kind of stuff doesn't enamor me to want to kind of to get into that and give it a try. But I like the idea of kind of playing sort of war movies on a tabletop. Like I'm not massively kind of deep into the historical side of it, but I like the idea of kind of playing out like a sort of like a war movie on a tabletop type thing, whilst being respectful to the fact that it's based on obviously real world stuff and real people. So yeah, I think those are probably maybe they're the 3 games I'd like to try. But again, I'm not likely to going to kind of like fork out any money on them out of my own pocket type thing. The stuff that I'd want to kind of like get some demos of. Mark's in kind of like I can play Marvel on top of books and just say everyone's being shrunk terrain wise. You can certainly get Ant-Man and Wasp in there anyway. Christian says time for bed. Thank you very much, buddy. Thank you for the birthday gift as well, mate. Hugely appreciated. And we'll speak soon, mate. Tabletop Ramble says, does the Marvel core set come with any terrain? It does come with terrain, mate. It comes with 2 cars. It comes with 2 dumpsters. It comes with 2 street lights, 2 traffic lights, and like a Daily Planet newspaper stand thing, like a newspaper shop. Is there anything else in that box as well? There's like a tiny little rubbish bin, I think, as well. Yeah, it comes with some terrain, mate. Spylord says, be amazing if AMG could get the TC license, but Nike have had that for a long time. They have had it for a long time. They've obviously got a good relationship with Warner Brothers, because obviously they got the Harry Potter stuff as well. So I don't see that kind of ending anytime soon. Brandon said, I don't like the movies, but these are the comic style. They are based on the comics, not the movies. But yeah, I'm just generally just a fan of Marvel stuff, really. So, but yeah, they're definitely based on the comic books. Colossus, thank you very much, Marco. That is who it comes with, mate. Last Star Strider says it's got X-Men. That's all I need. Yeah, so there's Wolverine, Sabretooth, there's Jean Grey, there's Cyclops, there's Storm, there is Beast, there is who we're missing. I'm trying to think who else is. There's Juggernaut, there's Colossus. I think I'm sure I've missed some, but I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. Yeah, War Machine's there as well. Yeah. Spylord says, surprised they haven't done Sentinels yet. It wouldn't surprise me if they come at some point, because they do them bigger models as well. Colossus comes kind of holding up a Sentinel's arm and above his head as well. Ian saying, I know they look so tempting, curse you. Star Strider says, New Year's resolution, get into other tabletops. I think I'm not even suggesting that you go out there and buy anything. I think it's just good to have like an appreciation of what else is out there, really. Ice Moon saying, any reason to use my awful Caucasian accent is good enough. Yeah, excellent, mate. Spylord saying, Blade's the one I've got. Yeah, I've got the Blade model as well. Blade comes with Moon Knight. Moon Knight is a kind of like a secret favourite of mine as well. The new Moon Knight TV show comes out in a not too distant future. And Moon Knight's a character that I think a lot of people don't necessarily know much about. But yeah, cool. Silver Surfer is what I'm waiting on. My all-time fave. Yeah, Silver Surfer hasn't made it yet, mate. They must have him on the drawing board. They must do, mustn't they? Mark was saying Bushido is pretty cool. Yeah, I've heard good things about Bushido, actually. I'm not massively into the kind of like the sort of Japanese samurai style stuff. I know they're really nice minis, but it doesn't particularly grab me much. The reason Wild West Exodus, for example, is not on the list today, when we're talking about stuff that do grab me, is I haven't had a chance to play it yet. So I've been painting up minis from the new starter set, but I've not had a chance to play it yet, so it wasn't on the list. VG says, more keen to try Conflict 47 than Bolt Action, but I hear they are essentially the same game. I think, mate, Conflict 47 is based upon Bolt Action first edition rules, and Bolt Action now has second edition rules. So I think the Bolt Action rules have been updated a bit, and Conflict 47 hasn't. Games Monsters Hobby saying, definitely give Song of Ice and Fire a try. Yeah, I've heard good things about it, mate. Tabletop Rumble says, whoa, just saying the price for Marvel expansions, 25 to 35 for just 1 or 2 minis. I think I'd better avoid it or the missus would kick me out. Can never just stop at the starter box. They are a bit more expensive, mate, but like I say, it really depends on if you're a player or a collector. If you're a player, it's not that expensive to play a game. Like for how much you need to play a game, it's not that expensive. But if you're a collector and you want to collect all 100 and odd minis, 110 minis for example, it's going to get expensive. But then You don't have to. That's optional. It's like anything. It's like saying, I feel the need to collect every model for every army for 40k. Like, of course you don't need it, but some people will want to. That's just what people do. Paul says, currently painting my second bolt action force as you talk. The game system has some great unique features, and historicals are a real change from the fantastical. Yeah, I've never really played historical stuff, mate, if I'm perfectly honest. I think I've always kind of sort of struggles, maybe not the right word, but kind of like try to have that balance in my head of like sort of can I separate the mental aspect of the lore and the background and the stories? Can I separate that from actually this is like it's history, it really happened, these are real people that this stuff happened to, and can I then appreciate like the stories of history? That I think that's why in my head, if I can pin it to like kind of like a World War II movie as opposed to pinning it to actual World War II sort of battles, it's a bit like kind of like how do you kind of wrestle with kind of playing the kind of like the German forces or the Russian forces or whatever it is. Like how do you kind of get to grips with that? I think there's an element of that in there for me as well. VG says, what sort of world do we live in where saying Nazis are bad guys is controversial? Yeah, I think there was a lot of... I think he said he was kind of like virtue signaling or something like that. Ted says, New Kill Team is a great game, but it's hampered by GW's bonkers release schedule. If it's all going to be £105 box set, which it is, then it's a big minus. That's why I'd like to try it purely from a kind of like, let me see what it's like thing, but I'm definitely not getting tempted into that kind of hamster wheel of stuff. Al clearly says Kelly's Heroes on the table. Yeah, exactly, mate. A little bit of Band of Brothers, a little bit of kind of Saving Private Ryan, that kind of thing, yeah. And Rob saying, if you want to try bolt action but not in historicals, try Conflict 47. Yeah, I kind of like... I think it's not the sci-fi aspect of it that interests me really. I'm not into historicals because I've never played them before, and I don't sit and watch like history documentaries and that kind of stuff. We didn't really study World War II at school. I don't really have a great knowledge of it or anything like that, and I don't necessarily want to feel like I'm reading history books for my hobby. I think that's kind of, there's an element of like lots of different things I'm wrestling with there. Matty says Song of Ice and Fire looks great, never tried it, but the Targaryen stuff looks great. Ed's saying the same thing there as well about how much do you usually spend on a unit. Yeah, that's exactly it. Ice Moon says don't forget to mention that some of the terrain is under the insert. Yes, so if you do buy it and you think there's stuff missing from this box, take all the cardboard packaging out, it's tucked away underneath at the bottom. VJ's saying to Mark, he's waiting for Bushido 2-player starter box. Beast, Magneto, I forgot about Magneto, yes. And Cable, I did say a Beast. Brandon said, I don't feel like you have to buy all the Kill Team expansions. They give you the terrain rules for free, and you only need the expansion if you want that specific Kill Team. I get that, but the rules for them are then hidden away in them boxes, and I don't like the idea that things are hidden away like that. Do you know what I mean? Domino, yeah, Deadpool, not an X-Men though, is he? Technically. Nightcrawler, I don't know if there is a Nightcrawler one yet, actually. I'll be on the lookout for Wings of Glory in the new year. Wargamer Fritz sold me on it. Wings of Glory. I don't know that. Amiga Red, yeah, Mr. Sinister. Someone made a Sentinels map. I've not seen that one yet. Ted saying, yeah, each new Warzone box is 105. Yeah, it's not even so much about the terrain and stuff. It's the fact that that the rules that like they've released this book which has got rules in for all the factions. But with each new release, with each new box release, it devalues that book with all of the rules in, for example, with all of the kind of lists in, for example. So each new box that comes out almost kind of devalues that a bit more, and that's the bit I'm not overly sort of excited about. Spider-Lord saying Fantastic Four will be along before long. Yeah, I would imagine, mate. Lee says, I think I need to start playing games. Bought loads of Marvel, but sold it as I got a bit overpowering. I think if I tried playing it, I'd be hooked. I think I see you buying loads of stuff, mate. I think you definitely get the kind of like the excited FOMO stuff and buy into stuff. Just play something. Just pick a game and play it, mate. If it's just about playing games for you, if it's about hobby, It doesn't really matter what you buy. Just buy whatever you want to work on. But that's what I'm kind of finding with the Marvel stuff, really, is I'm buying stuff, but I know I'm going to enjoy painting it, and it doesn't matter if it takes me a couple of days. It doesn't matter if it takes me a couple of months. I'll buy it and I'll kind of paint it, and I'm just enjoying it. Mighty saying Fantastic Four seems like a 2022 release. Yeah. Mini Warmos, hello mate. He says Marvel Zombicide's coming. That Galacticus is huge. Yeah, I think I talked about that last week on the live stream. I've kind of talked myself out of Kickstarters recently, but I might kind of break my own rule for that one. Greg says Legion has a fan-based campaign called Stormtide. Some great tweaks for narrative player. Marvel desperately needs an AI-based scenario game or linked missions. To be honest, there is an AI based. One of the encounters is basically like a co-op thing against the AI. I think it might be the Ultron one. I think so. Technically, you could play it solo because it's kind of like it's co-op with another player. So there is some in there. Let's have a look. Low Main saying Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver in the game. They are, yeah. Jesse, I think they do a Band of Brothers style set. They do, mate. Yeah, they do. Formwood says historical is creeping into Necromunda. The new slopper miniature just looks like Churchill. Fiji says just about to hit 10. Time to hit the studio. Work calls. Take care, buddy. Have a good day. Mark saying was Wings of Glory an X-Wing precursor. Do you know what it is? I can't remember if it was Wings of Glory or Wings of War. There was like a biplane game where they basically just took the rules and put X-Wings into it, kind of thing. That's definitely what happened. Spylaw saying GW's DLC method is very annoying. It is a bit with that at the minute, mate, yeah. Austin Thornhill says there are so many great games on the market right now. I want to play most of them, just not enough time and money. A great problem to have. I agree. I think there's potentially too many at the minute, and it's kind of what's happening is it's spreading the market outside of GW stuff quite thin, because there's a lot of good stuff out there. So what happens is everybody spread around different things. The upside of that is there's a lot of choice for people as well. So Ed saying new releases don't actually devalue the compendium. Both Tau and Thousand Suns have specialist teams and compendium teams that are both entirely viable. But it feels like the flavour is in the new stuff, not in the stuff that's in the compendium. Austin says it's a golden age of game, and yeah, you're not wrong, mate. John says I feel like it's time for a game that I don't need to build or paint anything. Wings of Glory will fill that bill nicely, as well as being historical. Zingbo says I may have just bought the Moonstone sorted and a few extra models. The 15% Black Friday discount and the Brian Froud style creatures won me over. Well, I hope you enjoy them, mate. I'm sure you won't be disappointed. And Ed says Wings of War and Wings of Glory are the same game in different eras. I didn't realise that, mate. I just assumed they were different games. And John saying this really is a golden age for miniature tabletop gaming, almost like the explosion of RPGs that happened in the 80s. Yeah, I kind of briefly talked about it a little bit with Warren in the interview that we did, and there is a risk that that there's not enough to there's too much, like too many games and not enough people to go around them, if you like. But at the end of the day, the cream will rise to the top, or it should do, as long as people get a chance to kind of like demo it. And I think unfortunately what happens is when there's too much choice, people then fall back on the easy options, and companies like Games Workshop benefit from it, because it's like, oh my god, there's so much out there, I don't know what to buy, I'll just buy what everybody else buys. And I think sometimes that's what happens. Tabletop Rumble says just seen Marvel Crisis Protocol has got a 1.5 version. So basically what it's had recently, mate, is it's had a little bit of an update to the rules. The rules haven't changed dramatically. There's a little bit of a change to kind of how you pick your mission at the start of the game, and some of the cards have had a little bit of an update and stuff, but the cards are all online to download and print off for yourself, the ones that have been changed. So it's had a bit of a kind of like just a bit of a tweak, really, a bit of an update, but the rules are always free online to download. The affiliation lists are all free online to download. All of the cards that have changed are all free online to download as well. So it's not like it doesn't devalue the core box, if you like, or anything like that. Lord Baden says I kind of agree. There's a lot of games. It's great if you don't limit yourself and have an open mind. And I'd say I get what you mean, but in both those cases, cases there, strong themes to each team's tower specials are in Pathfinder. I'll be honest with you, I don't know a lot about the kind of 40k stuff. I'm not really into the background lore. I'm only going by kind of what other more knowledgeable people have told me, if I'm perfectly honest. But it just feels wrong that's kind of how they're doing it. To kind of like, here's a book with all the rules in, except they're not all the rules. Here's a book with all of the army lists in, except it's not. That's kind of what I mean. Yeah, and Ed's saying 1.5 is a very soft reset. Yeah, exactly, buddy. So, folks, I think we've had a fairly chatty night tonight. Good chatting. Still got over 70 people in the chat tonight. I think it peaked at about, I can't really see there. You can normally see how kind of where it normally peaks at. I think it peaked at about, what's that? About 120 people, I think it was tonight at the peak. Which is not too bad, is it? Not too bad for a Monday night. So, Mark was saying, when you buy the MCP core box, make sure you look under the tray. Yes, that's exactly where all the cars and stuff is stashed away. So, thank you very much, folks. I appreciate you all coming in. Don't forget, if you would like to kind of support me through Patreon, you can do that from as little as $2 a month. Don't do it today. Do it from Wednesday. That way you get a full month for your money instead of 2 days for your money. I've really enjoyed the chat tonight. 10 sketches. Any chance you can summarise your top 5 before you sign off? If you want me to, mate, I certainly will. Let me just get back to here, and I'll summarise the 5. So, yeah, my top 5 tonight. In 5th place was Moonstone. Love the fact that it's something a little bit different, very whimsical, kind of sort of like fairy tale fantasy-esque about it. Is a card mechanic game, not with dice. Maximum of 12 models on the table, no matter how many people are playing. You just divide them 12 models between the different players. 3 foot by 3 foot. Nice little kind of skirmish game. Overdrive by Mantic Games, kind of sports battle arena type thing, sci-fi. Again, 6 models is all you need. 6 models come in the box set. You can totally buy this and play it like a self-contained unit. Probably my favourite of that kind of like battle arena kind of hex-based combat games. 3rd place was Malifaux. Malifaux is probably some of the best written and most interesting kind of lore and universe in a game I've probably ever played. Really interesting game system. Again, 3x3 tabletop. Plays with a deck of cards, not with dice. Beautiful minis. Hard plastic minis. Absolutely gorgeous sculpts. Something for everybody when it comes to that one. But yeah, probably like my favourite sort of universe when it comes to a miniatures game. Deadzone by Mantic Games. Sci-fi, sort of really streamlined rules, lots of deep tactics. As John mentioned, very much a kind of 3D experience. It's kind of its verticality as well as moving around. No tape measures to worry about as you just move through kind of cubes on the battlefield. No changes in stat lines to worry about. So a fixed stat, and you're just adding dice to your stats. Really is a game that kind of plays quick. Some nice factions to choose from. Really kind of scratches my sci-fi itch. And then in top place there was, number 1 this year was Marvel Crisis Protocol. Kind of everything I'm looking for in a miniatures game at the moment. Really nice minis, loads and loads of theme. Sort of 3x3 game. I love the fact it's got cards. I like a game with cards in front of me so I can kind of read the rules as I go, the stats as I go and stuff. Really enjoying the fact that I can kind of surround myself in that Marvel universe while I'm away from the tabletop as well. And loving the sculpts and kind of building and painting the minis. But it's the one I'm probably sort of playing more than anything else at the moment. So yeah, that's my kind of my very quick roundup. So there you go. Ian saying, "Don, you Andy just bought that Marvel Crisis Protocol corset. You won't be sorry, mate. I promise you won't be sorry." And Tabletop Ramble says, "Remember to give a like, folks. Cheers, Blackjack Legacy. Always enjoy your chats." Thank you very much, everyone. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, folks. Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month,
and there is lots of different tiers and bonuses which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month, and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now.